Good
Yes.
morning.
This is a continuation of the public panel interview of candidates for the position of Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals, the Sandigan Bayan, and the Court of Tax Appeals. But before proceeding, let's have the centennial prayer for the courts. Rogelio, walang sound.
Now proceed to guide us the path of Christ. Amen. Now,
Again, Your Honors, good morning. The
Good
panel,
morning.
the panel of interviewers for today are the following. The Honorable Justice Jose Catral Mendoza, Chairperson of the Judicial and Bar Council Executive Committee and regular member representing the retired members of the Supreme Court. The Honorable Judge Toribio Ilaw Jr., regular member representing the private sector. The Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez Tiham, regular member representing the Academe. And the Honorable Judge Franklin de Monteverde, regular member representing the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. For interview this morning, Your Honors, are the following candidates. Attorney Rogelio G. Largo, a candidate for Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals. And Judge Mitosialia R. Manzanero Casino, a candidate for Associate Justice of the CTA and the Sandigan Bayan. May I request the candidates to please raise your right hand so that I can administer the oath. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this public panel interview by the Judicial and Bar Council?
I do.
So help you God.
So help.
Your Honors, the first for interview will be Attorney Rogelio G. Largo, candidate of Associate Justice for the Court of Appeals. The first to interview the candidate will be the Honorable Judge Franklin de Monteverde. Judge de Monteverde, sir.
Thank you, Attorney Ed.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Attorney Rogelio Largo.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning.
Yeah. Morning.
other
How,
members of the
how do I
council.
call you? How do I call you?
Roger, sir. I'm called by the name
Roger.
Roger.
You're very young, Roger.
I'm 47 years old, Your Honor.
Yeah. And you are from Davao?
Yes, Your Honor.
Were you born there?
I was born in Lupon, Davao Oriental. That's about 2 hours drive from Davao.
I bet the roads going there is now fully concreted.
Yes, concreted, unlike before. Yes,
Yes, unlike before, it was rough and rugged.
correct, Your Honor.
I was there when I was 7 years old or 8 years old. In Lupon.
Lupon, yes, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Lupon, Davao Oriental.
Okay. How long have you been a lawyer, Roger?
I was admitted to the Philippine Bar in May of 2001, Your Honor. So, in my count,
Mga 19
more
years.
than 19 years already. 19 years.
And what do you do as a lawyer?
I litigate, Your Honor. Mostly, I own a firm. Actually, I do consulting
What do you
as
mean?
well.
What do you mean you own a firm?
I founded the law office.
You're a founder, but you do not own it because
yes,
you
that's
have
correct.
Partners, di ba?
Yeah, I started as a single practitioner, and after a while, I formed a firm together with some of my associates. I I invited them to become my junior partners. That's why we registered our firm. So I founded it, Your Honor. I stand corrected.
What fields in the practice of law are you focusing on?
Varied, Your Honor. Actually, criminal cases, civil cases. There was a time that I was focusing on agrarian reform cases as well because I was once a consultant of an NGO.
Mhm.
There was a time that I was on cooperative as well, cooperative practice, but
Okay.
now are on criminal and civil cases, Your Honor.
You are applying for a post the Court of Appeals, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is this your first time to apply for the appellate court?
This is my first time, Your Honor.
Okay. Being
And
your
even
first
the
time,
and even in the judiciary, this is my first.
yeah, okay. Being your first time, give us a background. Yung history mo from elementary up to the time you finished the College of Law. And later on, your credentials.
Yes, Your Honor. Modesty aside, Your Honor, I was not born to privilege, but with what I have done to my life through discipline, to determination, and passion for everything that I do, I have attained some kind of success already in my life right now. But I was born to a farmer.
Make it brief. Make it brief, Roger.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yung
Okay.
elementary mo, high school, college.
Yes, in
College.
elementary I graduated valedictorian, and in the high school I graduated valedictorian as well. In finished Bachelor of Science in Statistics, graduated cum laude, the first to graduate cum laude from the course at the University of Southeastern Philippines. I was president of the student government. In the College of Law, I was among the top of the class. I was working student at that time. I worked with the Department of Foreign Affairs as a consular assistant. I worked and did my studies in the evening. And then I was top of the class. I landed top 4 in the 2000 bar examinations. And from then I went to teach law at Ateneo de Davao. I went on to do my private practice. Once a consultant of a government hospital, the Southern Philippines Medical Center. I also attended the pre-judicature program, Your Honor, at Tagaytay.
What was your grade?
My grade was 93.34, Your Honor. I was told that I was top one of the last year. 47.
Very high, very high. Yes. Okay. Go ahead. Continue.
And that, Your Honor, I have been a civic leader, Your Honor. I love
Now
serving
let's concentrate first on your
on
academic.
my academics. Yes. I prior to taking up law, actually, I did have a master's in public administration, but I was unable to finish it because I went to study law. Now I'm pursuing my master's in law at San Beda University. I'm going to finish my course this semester, Your Honor, because I will have
Roger, where did you finish your college? College of Law.
College of Law at Ateneo de Davao University, Your Honor.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated 2000, Your Honor, and went to take the bar.
Okay. Your credentials, to be frank with you, Attorney Roger, your credentials very impressive. No? You're the top 4 sa bar exams, and then top 1 sa
Yes, Your Honor.
pre-judicature program. But nonetheless, you still lack one thing, which could earn you a safe ticket to the shortlisting, and then eventually probably your appointment as to the post of an associate justice. And I am referring to your SALN.
Yes, Your Honor.
You failed to submit your SALN for the years 2010 and 2012. Okay. I read your explanation, but somehow I need you to express yourself orally.
Yes, Your Honor. I did file all those SALN, Your Honor. In fact, I went to the Southern Philippines Medical Center to secure those two SALN in 2010 and 2012. But the hospital, Your Honor, is a very big hospital. You might have known already that's the biggest hospital right now in the city. The records are so voluminous. They had a hard time looking for copies of my SALN. In fact, one missing SALN has the front page without the last page. I did not submit it anymore. There was no reverse side of it. The one that I was able to secure was the 2011. Both sides are there. No, I also tried to check with the Office of the Ombudsman, Your Honor, but they were unable to provide me with a copy because of the lapse of time, Your Honor. That's really a problem. That's why I did ask for a certification from the Chief Administrative Officer, and he readily provided the certification that despite their efforts could not secure my SALN in 2010. I stopped serving as the part-time lawyer for that hospital in 2012, Your Honor. So I would have wanted to secure 2010, 2011, 2000, no longer for 2012 because that's where I stopped working. 2011 was available, but the 2010 only front page without the reverse side.
And let's assume that you only failed to submit your SALN for 2012. But is it not your obligation as a government employee to retain a copy for your file? We are made to submit at least 3 copies, no? 1 copy for you, for me, for all government employees.
Yes, Your Honor. I remember I had my copy as well, but after Your Honor, to be honest about it, I simply forgot those records that I had with the government. I did not intend for a long time to apply for a government position, Your Honor. But only lately that it occurred to me that there's a calling that is urging me to go back to government service, Your Honor. I have lost my copies, Your Honor. In fact, it took me a lot of effort to gather those records, Your Honor, from agencies where I worked with before. Even
in your letter, you stated that the hospital has promised you to look for those SALNs.
Yes, Your Honor. I kept on asking them, Your Honor, if they have still they have not. Actually, there's only one missing, Your
And
Honor.
also, to pa Roger,
Yes, Your Honor.
and also you also exert efforts in looking for copies of those, no? Because do not rely on the hospital. You should do it yourself. Look or exert extra effort in locating copies of those SALNs.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's a friendly advice from one Davoeño to another, no?
Yes, I would do so, Your Honor. I'll make
You
constant follow.
are yes, you have a very, very impressive credentials. Kaya lang you lack one thing, which would help you a lot. Okay, huh?
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for the
Okay,
advice, Your Honor. I
sige.
will take extra effort to locate
Oo.
files, Your Honor.
Okay, sige. Now, in 2011, there were cases filed against you at the
Yes, Your Honor.
Ombudsman for grave misconduct, grave coercion, and falsification. Although these were already dismissed, I just would
Yes, Your
like
Honor.
to know the background of these cases.
Yes, Your Honor. I was a lawyer of the hospital, as I told you earlier. And there was a cooperative of employees of the hospital owning and running a canteen. The canteen was leased out to some of lessees, Your Honor. Those contracts had already expired. And then those lessees whose contracts had already expired refused. So the cooperative had a problem managing the situation. So the cooperative actually implemented a policy, Your Honor, that would prevent employees to give access to the employees of the concessionaires to the concession areas. The concessionaires were not prevented, Your Honor. They were actually also employees of the hospital. So that led to a case in court. The concessionaires filed a case in court, but their complaint was denied, dismissed. I defended the cooperative, Your Honor. I defended the right of the cooperative to manage the canteen and to establish regulations there or implement regulations that would control the situation. Then the plaintiffs or the complainants, concessionaires went to the ombudsman and included me, Your Honor. So that's within the territory of practice. I accepted it, Your Honor. But clearly in the ruling of the ombudsman, I was without any obligation, either criminal or administrative. I was just simply defending a client.
So what was the legal basis for the dismissal?
Insofar as the criminal case is concerned, the ombudsman was telling that it cannot be grave coercion because there was no violence that was exerted by the defendant cooperatives, and there cannot be falsification because the cooperative simply declared in the resolution that the complainants did not submit any explanation why they should not be their membership should not be terminated from the cooperative, because complainants insisted that they did submit an explanation through their lawyer, but what the cooperative wanted is the explanation from the members of the cooperative. That was something personal to them. So according to the ombudsman, there was nothing it was not a wrong declaration on the part of the cooperative to say that there was no explanation, because what was sent was a letter from the lawyer, not in direct answer to the show cause order, Your Honor.
Okay, Roger. Should you be appointed, what judicial camp or ideology will you pursue in deciding cases? The conservative believing in originalism or the liberal believing in a living constitution?
I'll go for the conservative, Your Honor. I go for the interpretation that would carry into effect the intent of the framers of the Constitution or the law, Your Honor. I'll go for restraint rather than activism, Your Honor. I should be guided by the principles of stare decisis, because I'm in the appellate court, not yet in the Supreme Court. Only in cases where the situations do not fall squarely on established jurisprudence that I may probably consider deciding in a way that it would establish an exception. But if facts are such that they are on all fours with established jurisprudence, I should not veer away from that, Your Honor. I go for self-restraint and apply the law as it was intended by the framers at that enactment. That's my judicial philosophy, Your Honor, if ever I get appointed.
Okay. Now, do judges and justices have a role in bringing important legal or judicial issues before the public or the legislature? Why or why not?
Judges and justices, Your Honor, should exercise self-restraint. They should convey their message through the decisions that depend. Matters of policy should be addressed to the legislative branch of government, because that's where policies are enhanced, that's where policies are improved or changed. But matters falling within the jurisdiction of the court, like, for example, improving the administration of justice, expediting proceedings, weeding out misfits in the judiciary, this can be discussed in public by the courts. But insofar as matters that relate to the decisions that depend, judges and justices should express through their own decisions, not in any other way.
Okay. Now, is judicial activism needed in the Philippine setting today?
To some extent, Your Honor, because we have an expanded jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Activism should be exercised only, to my mind, by the members of the highest court. Because of the expanded jurisdiction, it can actually it can nullify, it can nullify laws that are enacted in violation of the Constitution, or nullify acts which are done with great abuse of discretion or amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction, but in limited extent, Your Honor, but not interpreting the Constitution as a living Constitution. The Constitution should be interpreted as it was intended by the framers and as approved by the people who ratified the Constitution, Your Honor.
So, Roger, under Rule 42, what procedures are to be observed by the CA, by the Court of Appeals, after the filing of the petitions?
Rule 42 refers to appeals to the Court of Appeals from decisions of the regional trial court in the exercise of their appellate jurisdiction. My
Yes.
understanding, Your Honor, is the Court of Appeals would have to require submission of comment from the part of the identified respondent, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm. There are 3 procedures, steps.
But of course, the Court of Appeals can actually dismiss it outright if the petition suffers from procedural defects, like, for example, lacking in attachments are not certified, or without payment of fees, or that necessary aberments are missing, like material dates, or attachments like verification and certification. That's my recollection, Your Honor. I cannot specify all, but insofar as in my practice, I was guided by those requirements, Your Honor.
Okay, Roger. You are managing your law office for
Yes, Your
11
Honor.
years already.
Yes, Your
Now,
Honor.
in your absence, who assumes the job?
I have a junior partner right now, Your Honor. In fact, Your Honor, since August, it's not reflected in my PDS. Since August 17, I got appointed as acting dean of the School of Law of the University of Southeastern Philippines. The president of the school wanted me to take over because I was part of the team that established the School of Law during my time as the private sector regent. It's a state university, so I did accept the challenge, Your Honor, but I told the president that I can be only for a short term, probably to start up to December. So because of that, I have distributed my senior partner to take care of the law office. Now, I have told him as well that I have become interested in rejoining the government after having resigned from government in 2012. I feel the urge now to serve government in a different capacity, in a very meaningful way. So he's ready, Your Honor, actually to take on the responsibility and to respond to the requirements of our clients. So I have no problem with that. We have hired a new associate as well.
Now, on the assumption that you will be shortlisted, this is merely an assumption because
Yes, Your
of the SALN na problema mo pa. No? You will be shortlisted and eventually appointed to the judiciary. So, who takes over the entire operation of the law firm? Will you be? Of course, you will be leaving it,
Yes, Your Honor.
and hopefully from Davao, Manila, or Cebu.
Yeah, actually, I already think of totally, disengaging, Your Honor, if I would be lucky to be shortlisted and appointed. My wife is a member of the firm, but she got appointed to a position of prosecutor in Davao. So there's no reason for me to continue the firm, actually, Your Honor, if I get appointed, because I know it's going to be a service until I reach the age of 70. So there's nothing reason for me to go back to practice if I get appointed.
So you're permanently residing in Davao?
Yes, I am. Yes, Your Honor.
And if appointed, you will be leaving the place and, of course, going home only on weekends. So you will be a weekend warrior.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now
I'm
you are
willing to do that, Your Honor.
Okay. You are now connected with the Davao City Water District.
Yes, Your Honor. I was appointed by Mayor Sara in 2019 to replace someone who was appointed by the president to help the office of the presidential management staff when Senator Bongo ran for the Senate. So my term will end December 31, Your Honor, because it was just for an expired term of 2 years.
Okay. Sige. That was my last question, Roger.
Thank you very much, sir.
Regards to your chairman, Ed Bangayan.
Yes, Your Honor.
And as a friendly reminder, as I said earlier, from one Davaoeño to another, take extra effort in locating those SALNs.
I will, Your Honor.
Those can be your stumbling blocks in your quest for the judicial posts. Okay?
Thank you for that, Your Honor. I
Sige,
will do
Roger. Okay, thank you for your time
certain
and
efforts.
good luck. Good luck.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank
And
you.
stay safe.
Thank you,
sir.
Your Honor. Judge de Monteverde.
Thank you, Attorney Ann.
To take his turn in interviewing Attorney Largo is Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez Sheilam.
Thank you, Attorney Ann. Good morning, Attorney Largo.
Good morning, Your Honor. It's a pleasure to appear before this council, Your Honor.
According to you, despite diligent efforts to look for your SALN, you cannot find it, and even the hospital cannot find it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Whose negligence is it? Is it your negligence or negligence on the part of the hospital?
I think both of us have obligations, Your Honor. The hospital has an obligation to keep records of my SALN. And as pointed out earlier, I also have my obligation. But as I admitted earlier, Honor, I have to be honest about it. When I stopped working for government, I never had any intent of trying to seek a post in government. It was a mistake on my part in not keeping my personal records that relate to my stint with the Southern Philippines Medical Center, Your Honor. I apologize for that.
Do you still have a copy? Do you still have a copy of your marriage certificate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you consider the SALN equally important as the marriage certificate you're supposed to keep with you personally and securely?
They are both important, Your Honor, please. I understand that they're both important, but I...
So
simply-
there is a missing SALN in 2010 as well as in 2012. Your network is, you're a multi-millionaire, but why would you want to join the judiciary?
I am, yes, I told, as I mentioned earlier, Your Honor, I have,
Is it a career path you are pursuing?
to be honest about it, Your Honor, it's only lately that it occurred to me. Now, after the lockdown, I reflected on my career. My business was doing well. I own a fleet of taxis in Davao, Your Honor, that gives me financial stability, actually. Many of my friends ask me the same question: why are you considering to apply for a judicial post? I always answer them, Your Honor, that I feel the urge for me to serve government again. I feel like success is not enough if it's not coupled with service, Your Honor. That's why if you will find in my PDS, all my time I have been serving others through the civic organizations that I have joined. I've been founded with, along with others, a Heart Foundation. I have that feeling in me that I should always find time to serve others. And serving the judiciary would be serving government in a unique and meaningful way, Your Honor. I'm looking at it that way. And I have already established my financial stability, I think, Your Honor. But my applying for the judiciary is not more about the financial side of it. It's more about the happiness that comes with being able to serve justice in a unique and meaningful way, Your Honor.
Well, I hope that if and when you're appointed to the judiciary, you will find happiness.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your training and experience requires you to display leadership qualities. Will you be effective in the Court of Appeals where you will be assigned to a division of 3?
Yes, Your Honor. Much of my success.
Are you a team player? Are you a team player, Attorney Largo?
Yes, Your Honor. I should say that much of my success in all my engagements, including my being the president of the IBP Davao City chapter, chairman of a Lions Club, chairman of other organizations, the taxi operators in Davao, requires leadership that skills that, of course, entails dealing with people, requiring great people skills. I do have that skills, Your Honor, because if not for that, I would not have succeeded in all these engagements. Now, I know the collegiality of the court, Your Honor. I can deal with co-equals and even with my superiors. I have no problem with diversity that probably will come along the way. But of course, it is subject to all my own principles. I cannot compromise my principles just so I can please somebody. I can deal with everyone, Your Honor, without sacrificing my principles.
Have you read the internal rules of the Court of Appeals, Attorney Largo?
I just read this prior to the interview, Your Honor. I was unable to read all, but probably part of the rules, Your Honor. That was not discussed in the School of Law, but anyway, I just tried to capture.
Let me ask you a question. What is the procedural process or steps with respect to an application for preliminary injunction in the Court of Appeals? So more or less, you should be familiar with this.
Since it demands urgency or action, urgent action on the part of the Court of Appeals, Your Honor, there is, I think, a requirement for immediate raffle by the clerk of court and subsequent referral to the assigned justice. The justice will have to evaluate the sufficiency of the allegations as well as the attachments and evaluate if there's.
Can one justice issue a temporary restraining order in the Court of Appeals?
I'm not quite sure, Your Honor, but I think in an exceptional case, Your Honor, only an exceptional case where other justices are not available or not present, and the facts are such that they would demand immediate action from the court. Pardon me, Your Honor, if
Can the Court of Appeals issue an injunctive relief in environmental cases? And if so, what other reliefs can be issued by the court?
In relation to environmental cases, Your Honor, I understand there are reliefs available to the petitioners. One would be temporary protection order. Another one would be writ of continuing mandamus, which may be issued by the Court of Appeals as well. And the third one would be the writ of kalikasan. The Court of Appeals can also issue that kind of writ. All of those are intended to enforce rights of petitioners, right to balance and helpful ecology, Your Honor, and of course to protect the environment against damage.
What's your understanding of the term SLAP, SLAPP, Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation?
My understanding of that, Your Honor, is that it amounts to like an available defense on the part of a person who is charged with SLAP, because the defense of SLAP would be available if the complaint filed by another against someone can be seen to be as a form of harassment, measured or rather aimed to stop the respondent from performing his or her duty to enforce environmental laws. That's my understanding of SLAP, Your Honor. So
the next question was requested by one of the ex officio members of the JBC, Secretary of Justice Guevara.
Yes, Your Honor.
The Roman Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn, New York, as well as two Jewish synagogues in New York, filed suit against the governor of New York, Cuomo, with respect to the health protocols that were being implemented, which was practically a lockdown prohibiting the number of attendees in churches as well as in Jewish synagogues, limiting it to only a church goers to limited to 10, or the maximum is 25, when in fact the assembly hall can accommodate 1,000 church goers. Now the question is, if a similar case is filed in the Philippines against the IATF for the health protocols limiting, how would you decide the case, and under what legal or constitutional basis will you decide it?
Um, my decision would focus on the police power of the state, Your Honor. The police power of the state allows the state to promulgate rules and laws in order to uh, regulate and health, promote security, order. And if the acts of the petitioners or the cause of action is of the petitioner is anchored on their freedom of religion, I would rule against that freedom, because freedom of religion, Your Honor, is subject to the restriction of the state. Of course, with the qualification that the restriction should not be unduly intrusive into the freedom. But in my view, providing restrictions as to the number of people in a place, the purpose of trying to stop the spread of the virus, is a reasonable exercise of police power in order to promote and protect the health of the people. So to emphasize, Your Honor, on the ground of the right of the state or power of the state, the police power of the state, and its obligation to protect the health of the citizens, I would go for the dismissal of the petition, Your Honor.
Are you suggesting that the free exercise of religion is subject to circumspection or limitation during a time of pandemic?
If the pandemic demands for the exercise of police power by the state, Your Honor, to promote and protect health of the people, then it should be subordinated to that power of the state. I think that jurisprudence of the matter is on benevolent neutrality. While the state should try to be accommodating of the exercise of the freedom of religion, but the state should not disregard its duty to promote health, secure the health and security of the people through reasonable restrictions, and that may somehow limit the exercise of the freedom of religion, Your Honor.
Attorney Largo,
That I will do, Your Honor.
the Senate recently passed a bill, and a similar bill was passed by the lower house. What is your understanding of the proposed CREATE bill, Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives Reform Act? What is your understanding about it?
Your Honor, to be honest about it, I have not read that, but going by the title, it would appear that the proposal would be intended to provide assistance to entities or businesses adversely affected by the current pandemic, probably through the assistance of the government institutions, financial institutions, or if necessary, tax relief during a certain period. All those affected to recover, Your Honor.
Could you just read that bill once it becomes a law?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
I'll ask two questions. The first question is, the Department of Justice Task Force on Corruption, in your opinion, there are no right and wrong answers here. Can the DOJ Task Force investigate complaints against members of Congress and members of the Judicial, and why?
My view, Your Honor, is insofar as the members of Congress and members of the judiciary, because we all know members of the judiciary can only be removed by way of impeachment. But for purposes of Rather, I'm referring to the justices, of course, Your Honor, justices of the Supreme Court. That is what is called for in the question. Impeachment is the only available remedy. But there's nothing that will stop the executive government, Your Honor, from helping in gathering facts. And if facts are gathered, this can be form part of the basis of the lower house of Congress to initiate articles of impeachment. I don't see any reason why government should be prevented, executive branch from prevented from doing that, provided that it will not be the one filing the complaint or deciding for the removal of an impeachable officer. With respect to the members of Congress, Your Honor, I think they can be removed by themselves, no, through a vote of 2/3. And if the fact-finding investigation done by the DOJ would help in a way in providing for the basis for the complaint against one of them, then that would be it. But of course, the executive branch may actually initiate a complaint against members of Congress also with the ombudsman, Your Honor. That's possible.
All right. My last question is, as a director of the Davao City Water District, in the case of Maynilad Water Services versus the Secretary of the DENR, decided by Justice, penned by Justice Mon Hernando, promulgated August 6, 2019, the court discussed the following doctrines: parens patria, jura regalia, and the public trust doctrine. Can you explain to me your understanding of these doctrines? Parens patria.
I cannot exactly recall, but so far as jura regalia, Your Honor, I think my understanding would be that natural resources, including water resources, are
What is the English equivalent of jura regalia?
regalian doctrine, Your Honor.
Regalian doctrine. Okay, what is
Yes.
the regalian doctrine?
That doctrine states that all lands and natural resources actually belong to the state, and the state only grants it or part of it to citizens who are entitled to own a part or to occupy a part of it. So everything originates from the state. And what's the other principle?
Public trust. Public trust doctrine.
Well, I just have to rely on my instinct on this. I think we can look at it that the use and possession of a water resource or any natural resource for that matter carries with it an obligation. We're holding it in trust for the public. And so the interest of the public should be factored in everything that we do in deciding for the use or utilization of the resources, including water. So we're holding it in trust for the people and the government that actually owns it.
All right. I still have 2 minutes. Okay, one final question.
Yes, Your Honor.
What improvements or safeguards can you suggest to strengthen the Court of Appeals' independent finding of probable cause in the deposits or investments that are related to unlawful activity or money laundering offense? AMLA cases are elevated to the Court of Appeals. So what improvements or safeguards can you suggest to strengthen the Court of Appeals' independent finding of probable cause? Must the Court of Appeals simply rely on the recommendation of the AMLC?
Well, Your Honor, I know that when the Court of Appeals exercises its power in relation to AMLA cases, the effect would be very drastic on the part of the person whose deposits are going to be frozen or affected. That I believe that the Court of Appeals should not merely rely on mere certification, like evaluating a recommendation or resolution coming from the prosecutor's office. The judge cannot just rely on recommendation. So the Court of Appeals justice handling it, or justices handling it, should go beyond the recommendation, go deeper by looking at the supporting documents if they are sufficient to engender a well-founded belief that there's reason to freeze the account subject of the petition, Your Honor. So there should be more than just reading the document that is filed by AMLA, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you for your time, Attorney Largo. Stay safe and continue looking for that SALN.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor, Justice Tiham. The next to propound questions to Attorney Largo is Honorable Judge Toribio E. Ilao Jr. Your Honor, please.
All right, morning. Thank you, Attorney Yan. So how are you, Attorney Yan?
Fine,
Am I
thank
going to
you.
start with your interview? And then, yes, good morning, Attorney what's
Good
your name,
morning,
please?
Your Honor.
Rogelio Gaisano or Gilsano?
Gilsano, Your Honor.
Gilsano. The poor
Gilsano.
side of Gaisano. Largo.
Yes, Your
Okay, Largo, which is Spanish term, which means what?
I think long, Your Honor. Long.
Long. All right. All right. You mentioned that this is the first time you're applying as an associate justice of the Court of Appeals. As in
Yes, Your
fact,
Honor.
this is the first time you're applying to join the judiciary.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, an appellate court. Why not start with a lower court?
Actually, I asked myself that question also, Your Honor. In fact, I'm not unaware that there are more RTC judges or trial judges who get appointed than those coming from the private practice. But like those few who were considered, who were found to be worthy of a slot, Your Honor, they took their chance, and I would like to take my chance as well, Your Honor. I will bring with me my 19 years of experience as a private practitioner, as a civic leader, and as a professor of law. I know that my long years of interaction with different kinds of people will give me some kind of sense of what our community or what our people would really want from our judiciary, that can give me some kind of sense or perspective, another perspective, distinct one, in trying to assess, evaluate facts presented to me in a particular case. So in my view, Your Honor, my skills, my talents are most suited to the Court of Appeals, Your Honor. I'm a very organized person. Despite my multiple obligations, I am able to meet deadlines. I have never been late in filing pleadings, Your Honor. I'm very passionate about what I do. I think that's what we all want from the members of the court.
All right, having been said about your credentials as lent by previous questions from my colleagues, can you tell me something about yourself that is not found in your application requirements?
Yes, I mentioned earlier, Your Honor, I filed that application on August 17. I was appointed as acting dean of the School of Law of the University of Southeastern Philippines. A short contract only after end of this year, subject to renewal, of course. I did not write it there, but of course I'm a family man. My wife is a prosecutor here in Davao. I have two children. A daughter now studying at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, my second year student. My son, 11th grade at Ateneo de Davao University. I'm a family man, Your Honor. I look forward to going home every day, despite many schedules, many engagements.
All right, having been both practiced in the private sector and in the government,
Yes, Your
you
Honor.
have seen both sides of the spectrum and the disconnect between the two practices. How have you addressed this disconnect in the effective pursuit of serving justice?
I would like to one example, Your Honor, that or perhaps two. No. When I was in the private practice defending clients in criminal cases, I really had a hard time trying to understand some disadvantages that of my client, for example, arising from principles that are somewhat already established. First, there's a principle which states, Your Honor, that if a rape victim would testify about her ordeal, about her experience, her statement should be taken like a gospel truth, because no woman in her right mind would subject herself to ridicule, expose herself to rigorous public trial if she's not telling the truth. There was a big problem, challenge the part of the defense lawyer, Your Honor, because we are trying to defend our client, and yet at the start, judges are predisposed to apply that principle. That's why I was very happy when a ruling in Amarilla came out that was penned by Justice, I think, Martires, trying to change that particular rule, because that's really inconsistent with our concept of constitutional presumption of innocence. I'm saying that, Your Honor, but because from the side of the private practitioner, there are matters that we perceive that may not have been perceived by those in government. Another one that I would like to share, Your Honor, I just handled a case, a murder case. It took 10 years for the entire judiciary to finally dispose of the case in favor of my client. My client was convicted by the regional trial court. I went up to the Court of Appeals and then to the Supreme Court. Just this January, Chief Justice Peralta decided in my favor. I would like to share that, Your Honor, because from the perspective of a defense lawyer, when judges would just swiftly say that if the defense of the accused is denial and alibi, it is as if that's not available or a good defense at all. I am happy that things changed with the ruling in Hubert Webb case, where Justice Abad was telling us that if the accused really is innocent, was not in the crime scene, there's no other defense that he can put up except denial and alibi. So the court should look at the testimony of the complainant, the merit of the testimony, the weight of the testimony, even before even looking at the defense set up by the accused. The same principle was applied by Chief Justice Peralta, Your Honor, in the case of murder that I handled, which was granted by Chief Justice Peralta. Of course, the rest of the members of the committee or the division, Your Honor. So I'm saying that, Your Honor, because these things were actually very clear to us even before all these decisions came out. So there are things that are made known to us while we are outside of government, and those inside may not have the reason to consider or to think of.
All right. Further, having been entirely in private practice service record, you do not have experience at all in the judiciary. That is,
I know,
there's no question and there's no quarrel about that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Especially adjudicating cases, which will be one of the main tasks of an associate justice of the Court of Appeals. Why do you think you could successfully carry out said task without any experience therein?
All right. The modesty aside, conviction, I could tell this honorable court that my knowledge of the law, my experience as a private practitioner for 19 years, my passion and dedication towards my work, and my willingness and readiness to do in-depth research, I'm sure that it will enable me to write decisions that are clear, logical, cogent, and can stand up to scrutiny, Your Honor. I know that I don't have a judicial experience, but to my mind, writing pleadings would help me as well perform the duty of a judge or justice in writing decisions as well. I rely on my skills and talent, Your Honor, in being able to meet with the duty of a justice to render justice, to decide decisions with utmost honesty and efficiency, Your Honor.
All right. In brief, can you tell us more about your practice and accomplishments, Jared, that make you worthy of a seat in the appellate court?
If I were to gauge my success in the private practice, Your Honor, again, modesty aside, I don't have records to show this time. I have more than 90% success rate from the cases that I've handled, and I attribute it to my passion to excellence, commitment to my work, and attention to details, Your Honor. I have about more than 5 cases that are in the scrap because I won these cases in the Supreme Court, Your Honor. I have clients as well in Davao who have been with me since I started practicing. They repose their trust in me because of the quality of the work that I provide to them. I was appointed by Mayor Sara to the Davao City Water District after my service as president of the IBP Davao City chapter because the good mayor found that I was sincere in helping the people people of Davao improve access to justice. In fact, if I may share, Your Honor, only during my time as president of the Davao City chapter that I was able to bring volunteer lawyers to Hong Kong and Singapore. Were able to undertake legal aid missions that benefited distressed OFWs in these places, Your Honor. Those are highlights of my career I consider worthy of mentioning to the members of the council, Your Honor.
All right. Further, could you convince this council to nominate you over other judges applicants who had been in the government or in the judiciary for several years, as against yourself, and therefore disregard careerism in the judiciary?
Your Honor,
You're admittedly an outsider.
yes, I am an outsider, Your Honor. I do understand that careerism is important in order to inspire people who are already in government. In fact, there's reason for it. I do understand, but I also do understand that the Constitution allows those from outside to consider applying. So that's why I'm taking my chance, Your Honor. I know that with conviction, that I can measure up to the most exacting standards required of the members of the bench, members of the judiciary, Your Honor. Of course, the integrity, the courage to rise above pressures, the ability to maintain decisional independence, to decide cases based on merits and not swayed by any other extraneous factors or influences. I can do so, Your Honor. I can effectively, I can be as effective and efficient and even more than those who are already in the judiciary. I do not wish to compare myself with them. I don't know them actually, Your Honor, to be honest about it. I just simply would like to tell you about myself, that I can measure up with the challenge if ever I will be given that privilege.
All right. Let's go to your SALN that's already been touched by the other members of the council.
Yes, Your Honor.
And even you being reminded to exercise extra diligence in obtaining the missing, alleged missing SALN. So in 2018, you declared 826,500 as the amount received by a partner from GPP.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's GPP?
General Professional Partner, Your Honor.
And 372,350 in 2019.
No, it's not.
Am I correct?
It's not 300, Your Honor. It's more.
It's more.
Yes, Your Honor. I think I declared close to 1 million in 2019. I'll check, Your Honor. It's not.
That's 372,350 in 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, probably from because that's where I started, maybe from GPP. I'm referring to the income that was rather the share from the partnership. In 2019, actually, Your Honor, that's where we started the School of Law at the University of Southeastern Philippines. I already took a leave of absence because our School of Law started in 2019. I was member of the Board of Regents of that university as a private sector regent. So somehow I reduced my load from the firm and joined the ranks of the faculty spent much of my time trying to develop syllabus and materials for the School of Law, but my needs were answered by my company, Your Honor, my taxi company. That's why in 2019, I did not receive much from the General Professional Partnership.
Is it correct that you are the recipient of all these amounts, or are these amounts shared by all the partners?
My amount, Your Honor. My other partners, I think, got more than me during that time. It was more of like just supervising starting in 2019. In fact, in 2020, Your Honor, I don't think if I have received substantial amount from the partner, because during lockdown, we were unable to operate. And in August, I started working as acting dean of the School of Law. So basically, starting March, I'm already on leave from the law office, starting March of this year.
You are the margin partner. Who's this Bernales Largo?
My wife, Your Honor.
About biglang tumanda. What's this tumanda?
Tumanda is my partner also, Your Honor, but he is on leave because he is a lawyer of the Davao City Water District Department Manager or Assistant General Manager, Your Honor.
Also, this Attorney Hernandez. What's the first name of?
Robert Hernandez, Your Honor.
And lastly, Ginomla.
Yes, Your Honor.
They're all a product of Ateneo de Davao?
Yes, Your Honor. They were my students in the School of Law, Your Honor, when I was teaching at Ateneo de Davao University.
Going back to such amount in your SALN, if this is the trend of the amounts you receive from your practice, how were you able to obtain a network of almost 120 million over the years?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, as I mentioned to you, starting I think in 2009, I started my taxi business, started with 5 units and then 10 units. And then banks were very aggressive, Your Honor, in lending money. And then my units went to more than 100. Loans are actually, the collateral for the loans are the units only. So that's why I was able to aggressively expand. But most of those some are still to be paid. Some were already paid. So the income of the business actually, Your Honor, was the source of the money that enabled me to buy some properties, some assets, and so that much of my family expenses actually are answered by my business, Your Honor.
So how were you able to?
I have 114 taxi units, Your Honor, and about 30 jeepneys running in Davao. So, but it did not come overnight. I started with only 5 units in 2009, Your Honor, and the income, I spent the income to buy another one, and then the income, and then it went to that number, sufficient enough to raise so much money that that's why some of my friends have been questioning me, why do you have to consider government service when I'm earning much this time, Your Honor? Again, I told them that I'm already 47 years old. I have done so much private practice in my life. I have served the community through my civic engagement. I would like to do something more that I will do for the rest of my productive years until my retirement, and probably serving the judiciary is the best option for me.
Yes, the network have been made more than 100 million in the span of 7 years. All right, just to educate lawyers, how do want to build their wealth?
Fiscal literacy. That's why when I was in the IBP, Your Honor, one of the topics that I discussed with students would be about financial literacy. Every new set of lawyers who joined the IBP Davao, I always included a topic on financial literacy, because I know lawyers have the tendency to spend money as they come, and then they are trapped in what we call rat race. as their income increases, they increase their expenses as well. I'm against that, Your Honor. I was guided by the book of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a very nice book, inspirational book. If not for that book, I would not have probably ventured into business. I was telling myself that we should have financial literacy. Lawyers should have financial literacy because temptation of lawyers was to earn money, they buy cars, they buy vehicles without even considering investment. So they should go for investments, Your Honor. While it's always fulfilling to have new cars, to have new houses, but it's always good if you invest first. And income from investments should be the one used to buy your own luxuries. I did that in my life, Your Honor. That's why during the first few years of my practice, I earned money, which I use as my capital when I started my business.
Are you comfortable in living a private practice?
I am, Your Honor. I am comfortable. I'm willing to give up my practice. In fact, I have given up actually literally this time. I have not been handling cases anymore except for about 2 or 3, those that are still to be finished because I'm already now joining the government. I find pleasure actually teaching and leading the School of Law, Your Honor. Our school, the new School of Law, is just a 2-year. It's in its second year of operation. I find happiness meeting students, teaching them. That's why at this stage of my life, I'm willing to give up my practice. To be honest about it, Your Honor, the reason why I considered private practice before because I was poor. I did not have much in life. I was a working student. I have passed the bar through hard work, Your Honor. I wanted to improve my economic condition through practice by earning a substantial amount and through fiscal management, better sound fiscal management, and I accomplished that already, Your Honor. I have prepared already for my children, something for my children, and what I want right now is also for myself that I will be happy for the remainder of my productive years serving government in a capacity that I want, Your Honor, or I desire.
All right. Thank you. That's really the saying, a cliche in the beauty of the lucrative private practice of having a windfall. But
Yes,
do you think if you are as an associate justice of the Court of Appeals, there will be a windfall too?
I don't think it's going to be that chance, Your Honor, because the salaries of those in the court are fixed by law. They cannot just be determined by those who are sitting in the courts. As I mentioned earlier, Your Honor, that's not actually my primary consideration. I have made substantial assets and cash already, Your Honor. So my consideration really, Your Honor, is try to find a perfect fit where my talent, my skills can be probably put of use serving others because I know success would be enough without being coupled with service. I have so much success in life. I would like to believe, Your Honor.
All right, now my time is up. Can I, Chairman, can I request for an extension of 2 more questions only?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. What do you think are the most pressing issues plaguing the Court of Appeals from your experience as well as from your study?
Yes. Previously, Your Honor, when I started my practice sometime in year 2001 and probably up to year 2010, we were questioning about delays in the rendition of judgment. Decisions came out like after 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. But now it's quite different, Your Honor. They are very efficient this time. No? Very efficient. Members of the Court of Appeals are efficient this time. And under one
Only this time? Only this time?
No, I'm not referring to this year, but probably in recent years. Yes, they are very quick already this years, Your Honor. There's one thing I have been hearing about TRO for sale. When, for example, a politician is dismissed by the ombudsman, he goes to the Court of Appeals, secure the TRO, and that's done through by securing or by buying, that TRO. I never had that experience, but I heard that, Your Honor. If that is true, that's really something that should not happen. Probably it explains the reason why Chief Justice Peralta, one of his 10-point agenda, or included in his 10-point agenda about Judicial Integrity Board. Probably that will address that particular issue, trying to purge the judiciary of misfits, Your Honor. Other than those, Your Honor, about issues of misconduct and issues of delay, I really don't have any knowledge at all about irregularities in the Court of Appeals.
All right, now what reforms are you going to implement to address these issues? In brief, aside from the existing rules and the laws.
If within the judiciary, Your Honor, without need of legislative support, probably the reform would be about providing for new procedures for the Court of Appeals, because now we have a lot of changes in the regional trial court. We have revised, we have amendments to the 1997 rules of civil procedure. We have amendments also to the rules of evidence, 1985 rules of evidence. And I think the rules, internal rules of the Court of Appeals was last revised in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe there's a reason for the court, to the High Court, and even the Court of Appeals leadership to also consider looking at its internal rules, try to expedite proceedings so that decisions can be rendered as quickly as possible. And the matter of integrity, Your Honor, that is something that should also be addressed alongside with the policy, or rather program, of the current leadership of the judiciary, headed by Chief Justice Peralta, that members of judiciary should be reminded of their oath, that they should keep their true and undivided fidelity to their court. They should do justice as is required of them. Because integrity, Your Honor, rests in not just being able to decide cases, but more so in being able to generate that kind of impression and confidence from the people that those running the judiciary are able to do justice to those parties appearing before them.
All right, my last question, Attorney Largo. If you were a pizza delivery man, how would you benefit from scissors?
Pardon, Your Honor?
If you were a pizza delivery man, how would you benefit from scissors? Gunting.
Gunting. Well, pizza delivery man. I don't think I would have a direct benefit from it, Your Honor, because the pizza, the tie would have to be tied by the customer, not by the delivery man. I would not have any direct benefit from it, Your Honor. Otherwise, I would be exposing the box, the package, to possible contamination even before it is delivered to whom it is intended. So my view is that there's no way I should benefit from scissors, Your Honor, which are intended to cut off the one that's tying the box.
All right, thank you. That was my last and
Thank you,
last and final.
That was the most difficult question, Your Honor.
that was my last and final question. I still have more questions to ask, but Justice Catal is already signaling me, stop. Okay.
No, you continue. You continue. It was the most difficult question, so you ask further.
Thank you, Panero.
You asked him about if he's a stapler.
All right, thank you, Attorney Largo. Thank you for your time, your effort, and good luck to your journey. Regards to mga Dabaweños daw.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Judge Ilaw. The last to interview Attorney Largo is our Executive Committee Chairperson, Honorable Justice Jose Catral Mendoza.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Judge Largo. I'm
Roger
really
only, Your Honor. I'm not a judge.
No, I'm sorry. I'm tired. Anyway, you're not a judge. You want to be a justice. Okay. uh, I am impressed by your record, except with respect to the SALN. Why do you not keep records of your SALN? The SALN you filed.
Actually, Your Honor, I remember I kept records, but that was in 2012 that I resigned. That's really a mistake on my part. From then on, I went to full private practice, Your Honor, and I cannot recall where those files are. Even my other records, Your Honor, my service record, I still have to go to SPMC to get my service record. To be honest, Your Honor, and it never occurred to me to even consider joining government. Not until this time when we had a lockdown, we had time to reflect on my.
So at that time, while you were in private practice, you never thought that that you would apply
Yes, Your Honor.
or join the government again.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you joined the Davao Water District.
Yes,
Or
Your Honor.
were you not required to submit your previous salary?
There was no requirement, Your Honor.
No, not a requirement.
I after I joined in 2019, I did submit my SALN 2019 and 2020, Your Honor.
Yes, that's
It was
the
an appointment.
entry salary, right?
Yes, Your Honor. Interest
Yeah.
SALN, Your Honor.
Oh.
It's not something that is. I'm not an organic personnel, Your Honor, or employee. I'm just in the board. I just meet with the board when there's a meeting, Your Honor. So um, only lately, really, Your Honor, that it occurred to me that perhaps I should consider joining government in a permanent capacity.
I see. Oh. I will just follow up on your answers earlier. You mentioned the benevolent neutrality doctrine or theory. In what's that again? Can you?
My recollection of that it relates to the religious freedom, Your Honor,
Yes.
of some members of some religion trying to assert that they should be covered by some rules and regulations promulgated by the state. My understanding of that is that the government should be accommodating of the assertion of some members of religious organizations, provided they are considered valid. They are what we call, they are verified to be true, and provided that there is no strong state interest that needs to be protected by a particular regulation. So if the regulation, Your Honor, can be still the purpose of the regulation can be achieved without trying to intrude into the religious freedom, then the government or rather the state should be accommodating of the exercise of religious freedom. So that's my understanding of that principle, Your Honor.
What do you call that term? The exercise or the exception. What do you call that term? You teach constitutional law, right?
That was long ago, Your Honor.
Oh, and also you
2001.
you also tap the pre-judicature exam.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you must remember the term for that.
What about what's you were asking, Your Honor, about the
Exception
exception
yes,
to the doctrine of
yes,
neutrality?
yes.
Exception. Mm, I cannot recall this time.
I'll help you. Compelling state interest.
Yeah, compelling state interest. That's what
I know you will remember it.
I was
I-
thinking about. I'm thinking about state interest that would clash with
Yes,
the freedom, Your Honor.
it's
That was it that I was
compelling state
state
interest.
interest. Yes.
So, in your view, public health is more important than this tolerance or of the practice of religion.
Yes, Your Honor.
Hmm.
It's more important because the right of the people to public health has something to do with the right to life. So if the government would not uphold the collective right to public health of the people, then that would have a effect on their life. And the right to life is the most important of our rights, Your Honor. So the right or the exercise of freedom of religion should be seen as subordinate to the exercise of the state of its police power by promulgating rules and regulations to promote, protect public health.
Yes, sir. So you agree with the government's policy on lockdowns during
Yes,
this
Your Honor, I
pandemic?
agree on lockdown, but of course, it should be subject to some limitations. So it should achieve a specific purpose, and it should be clearly defined that the purpose should only be least violative or intrusive into the well cherished freedoms of the people, Your Honor. So there's going to be a balance between the exercise of the power of the state with the freedom of the population, and it should be enforced in such a way that the freedom should be protected as well, or if ever affected, not affected in an adverse way. In fact, the United Nations human rights body, Your Honor, has come up with advisory that during this time of pandemic, it's very important that we factor in human rights uh, in the determination of government regulations, because human rights should not be stepped aside even if you are in a pandemic, Your Honor. And I fully agree.
Agree. You agree. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
How about your taxi business? Was it affected by the lockdown?
Very affected, Your Honor.
Very affected.
I stopped
Eh,
operation for about 2 months. During that time, I provided all the kinds of support but my drivers needed, food, subsidy. Even now, in Davao, we are again into JCQ, Your Honor. Only about 30% of my taxi units are hitting the roads on a daily basis. So that's a cut of about 60 to 70% of my usual income. But
income. Oh.
I
But
look at it as
you understand the reason behind the lockdown.
yes, Your Honor, I do understand. I have no quarrel with government.
You have no complaints.
I have no
Like
complaint. In fact,
like the operators and drivers here in Metro Manila.
I don't know with them, Your Honor. Here in Davao, I deal closely with the city mayor, Mayor Sara, in matters relating to transportation. As president of the Taxi Operators Association in Davao, I issue advisory regularly, reminding them, the drivers, to observe health protocols so that we can contain or stop the spread of the virus and stop of course, the increase in number of incidents affected persons, Your Honor. I have no problem with that, even if it would mean reduced income from my end.
Now, you earlier mentioned that you seem pleased with the decision of the Supreme Court in Amarilla.
Yes,
No?
Your Honor. I'm very pleased
Oh.
about that decision because
Was that the very basis for the acquittal?
I am not Your Honor.
No,
There
no.
were inconsistencies in the testimony of the victim, Your Honor.
So it was not really used. It
Not-
was just an obiter dictum. Do you agree?
It would seem so, Your Honor. But Justice Martirez took the time to explain that at this time and age we should depart from the usual notion that a woman victim of violence is not capable of telling a lie. So that's the point that I appreciate much, Your Honor, because
Is that the term not capable of telling
Of course
a
not,
lie?
Your Honor. It was more,
Oh,
there was a more diplomatic way of
because
saying it. Your
it
Honor, I
was not,
agree.
yes, it was not just used as a presumption.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's why it was
Presumption should be
stated
done.
there. Oh, in that
Agree.
very case, he said that no, but he did not abandon the previous ruling.
Yes, Your Honor.
No, okay. Oh,
Previous rulings still remain that appreciation by the trial court as to factual circumstances should be respected as much as possible because trial judges are in a position to observe the demeanor of witnesses. And this factual finding should not be reversed on appeal unless there is glaring errors. And more so if the factual findings of the RTC and the Court of Appeals jibe. So these are standard principles, Your Honor. But what I really pointed out is some judges, I'm not saying all, will just swiftly invoke the doctrine that private complainant in this kind of case would not have done so if there's no truth to what they're saying because they are exposing themselves to ridicule, something like that. Your
okay,
Honor.
your wife is with the prosecution.
Yes, Your
What
Honor.
is her opinion on that? Did you discuss that?
Yes, we did discuss a lot of,
Oh, what was her position?
and she agreed, Your Honor. Actually, she agreed. Although
She agreed with the decision of
that case actually came from Davao, Your Honor. Originated, by the way, in Davao. The
Amarilla. Yeah.
It's talk about in Davao, Davao legal community, Your Honor.
Okay. So, do you remember what is the rape shield rule?
Well, I have not handled rape cases recently, but my understanding of that, Your Honor, is if you have a minor victim or a victim of violence, prosecutor or the defense should not be allowed to come forward with evidence that would tend to show that the victim is into some kind of prostitution or has had previous immoral or sexual dalliances or conduct.
That is also covered by the new rules of evidence. I mean, say the amendments, and it was just a reinstatement or improvement. You have been a defense lawyer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you agree with that rule on evidence?
The character of
Yes.
about character, Your Honor.
Yes.
I agree, but not totally. But the defense lawyer should be given some leeway to impeach the character of a witness, especially so if the defense rests on the assertion that someone else is liable.
So you have a different opinion.
Yes, Your Honor. Because, for example, Your Honor, my
Can you explain your point?
yes, for example, Your Honor, if the defense of my client, Your Honor, is such that he was not the one who did it and somebody else did it, and he knows who did it, then my client should be permitted to come forward to present to the court the character of the witness that at previous times he has had such kind of activities that would affect her credibility. So that's why I go for, well, there's reason for the general rule, but there should be some allowance on the part of the defense to impeach the character of a witness if it
Yes, correct. Proceed.
necessary to link the crime to another person. Thank you, Your Honor.
That's the only reason. If there is a probability that another person committed the crime,
That's the only thing that I can
that's the only thing.
think of right now. But of course,
Well, anyway, there is an exception. That was the general rule. There is an exception. What is that exception?
for example, Your Honor, my client would what about exception to the Your Honor, character as
Yes, rape shield rule on evidence.
okay, rape shield. I think
Oh.
exception would apply if, for example, the defense of the accused would show that would try to prove that, for example, the injury that is sustained by the complainant or the semen found in her body or vagina or the semen found in her body or vagina came from another person, or the injury was inflicted by another person.
Well, anyway, I'm not asking for specifics. That's the general exception because so many instances really. Oh, what is the general exception? If you remember, was that
Exception.
yes? You read the new amendments, rules of evidence.
Well, about if the wait. I cannot recall the specific amendment.
Specific words.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, it's all right. It's a new rule. Now, you do not want to pass through the region or the trial court levels. You want to go to the appellate courts.
Yes, Your Honor.
You call it an appellate court,
Yes, Your Honor.
but it has where does in what cases uh, do the Court of Appeals have original jurisdiction?
Well, the Court of Appeals has original jurisdiction in a lot of cases, Your Honor. First, my recollection, I hope my recollection will serve me right. It has regional jurisdiction over actions for annulment of judgments of the regional trial court.
Yes.
It has original jurisdiction also over actions for petitions for certiorari, mandamus, prohibition, co-warranto, and even for petition for issuance of writ of kalikasan, writ of amparo, writ of habeas data. Yes, those are only those that I can recall at this time, Your Honor.
Okay.
Original jurisdiction of the Court of Appeals.
Human Security Act now.
Yeah, Human Security Act, AMLA case.
AMLA case. Oh.
AMLA case, Human Security Act, I can recall now.
You recall now. Oh.
AMLA, Human Security Act. When the government would apply for an order that will allow government to what kind of order is that, to go into
anyway, they are different.
Surveillance and
they are different. They are different remedies.
Yes,
so,
I know.
In cases that the Court of Appeals has jurisdiction, original jurisdiction, they are allowed to receive evidence. In what cases are they? There are three categories. One of them, in cases where the Court of Appeals exercise original jurisdiction. In what other instances does the Court of Appeals allowed to receive evidence?
My recollection, Your Honor, it would be that the other instance would be when the Court of Appeals would grant a motion for new trial, Your Honor, in civil cases.
Yes.
And also criminal cases, I think. And the other one would be when the court would need to receive evidence to determine the propriety or the amount of claim for damages arising from the issuance of injunctive writs, Your Honor, by the court.
Provisional remedies.
Provisional remedies, Your Honor. Agree.
Okay. So not only injunction.
Yes, Your Honor.
Provisional
remedies, attachment, injunction. That would.
Do you know what is the Berry rule? Berry rule.
Berry rule, Your Honor. I was teaching criminal procedure also before, but this is more procedure. Yeah, applied to both, Your Honor. It's more of newly discovered evidence.
Yes.
Newly discovered. It's the newly discovered evidence rule. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. What else were covered earlier? Amarilla. Oh. Hmm. I think that will be all, Panyero. You are excused.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Thank you for the time, and thank you for the chance and opportunity to appear before this honorable council. Good day to everyone, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Justice Mendoza.
Exacto, 0000.
That concludes the public panel interview of Attorney Rogelio Largo. Attorney Largo.
Key Largo. Wala na siya.
May we now call on Honorable Judge Mitushela Manzanero Casino, presiding judge of the Regional Trial Court Branch 228, Quezon City. She is an aspirant for the position of Associate Justice of both the Sandigan Bayan and the Court of Tax Appeals. Good morning, Your Honor, Judge Casino. The first to interview you is Honorable Judge Franklin J. De Monteverde.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Ann.
Good morning.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Yeah, I think I interviewed you last year.
This is my first time to apply, Your Honor.
This is your first time? Okay. You are now the presiding judge of the Regional Trial Court Branch 228 in Quezon City.
Yes, Your Honor.
And for how long have you been there?
For 5 years and 6 months or 7 months, Your Honor.
Okay, 5 years, 6 months. And may I know your caseload as of today?
It's 737, Your Honor.
As of today?
No, as of our last monthly report, which was October 30, Your Honor.
Okay. It states here that that on August 31, 2020, you had a caseload of 3,989. Is this correct?
Your Honor, that is the total number of cases which we handled, not the current cases, Your Honor.
Okay, so there's a mistake here. It's not your caseload.
Yes, Your Honor.
So this being your first time to apply for the judiciary, kindly give us an insight into your educational background.
I studied in our town in Alaminos, Laguna during my elementary days and in San Pablo City in my high school days. Then I studied in Manuel Luis Quezon University, where I took AB English, major in literature, and where I graduated cum laude. And then I transferred to San Beda College of Law, where I obtained my Bachelor of Laws degree.
When did you graduate?
I graduated in 1993, Your Honor.
And immediately you took the bar?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how did you fare in the bar exams?
I passed the bar, Your Honor, but I got a low rating because I was almost disqualified in my labor law and social legislation subject. It was the Waterloo in our batch. There was a great percentage of failures in that subject, Your Honor.
In labor laws?
Yes, Your Honor.
Not in taxation?
No, Your Honor. Taxation was my saving grace, Your Honor.
How did you fare in taxation?
I got 90 in taxation, Your Honor.
So is that the reason why you are applying for a post at the Court of Tax Appeals?
Not really, Your Honor, because I still have a lot to do in terms of updating myself on the jurisprudence on tax cases, because I have been a drugs court judge since I became an RTC judge. But maybe it was a sign.
Mhm. So prior to your appointment as an RTC judge, where did you work? Give us a background on your professional careerism.
After taking the bar exams, I applied in Makati Business Club, where I was hired as a contractual in their project Court Watch. I think it was in partnership with USAID, Agile USAID. And then after passing the bar, I was employed in Philippine National Bank as a legal officer in the documentation division. And then later, I was transferred to the human resource group, where I acted as assistant manager and handled the administrative cases pertaining to cases of employees in the bank. After Philippine National Bank, I transferred to the Sandigan Bayan in 2001. And after 6 years there, I applied in the judiciary. I was appointed as first level court judge in MCTC, Paite, Pakil, Pangil, Laguna. It later became MCTC Pangil, Paite, Pakil, because I worked with the local government and asked the local government of Pangil to provide us with the Hall of Justice, because in Paite, I share the space with the municipal hall, and it was not conducive to the court when it comes to hearing cases, because we were in the open hallway of the municipal hall. Well, we're all people who transact business in the municipality, passes by whenever we conduct hearings. So I had to talk to the mayor of Pangil. That's why the court is there now.
So how long have you worked for the government, including your stint at in the judiciary?
20 years, Your Honor, but I had around 6 months in PNB while it was still a government corporation. And then it became private, so 20 years and one half, Your Honor.
1994, PNB was still a government private owned or controlled corporation.
Your Honor, a few months thereafter, it was converted into a private corporation.
Okay.
I still went to the office in Escolta, Your Honor.
Because my daughter-in-law was connected with PNB when it was already a private firm. Okay, let's go to your medical record, and it's not very impressive. Your X-ray result shows that there are few streaky opacities, right paracardiac area, probably secondary to pneumotic process. What is this?
Your Honor, I was asked by the physician who interpreted the results if I have a cough that time, and I said, no, I do not have symptoms. So she said, maybe this is just an error on the part of the machine, because if you have pneumonitis in your finding, you would have coughing right now.
Okay. Now, as to your complete blood count, CBC, you have high FBS, cholesterol, and uric acid. As a matter of fact, you have been diagnosed to have dyslipidemia, hyperuricemia, and hyperglycemia. Recommended to consult with an internist for proper evaluation and management. Have you consulted an internist after getting these results?
Yes, Your Honor, I consulted an internist, and I also talked with my brother who is in the medical field. And that internist said that since I told him that it was my first time to have such elevated sugar, lipid, and uric acid in my blood, he said maybe I just needed a change of lifestyle. I just needed to diet and exercise, but I have to repeat the blood chem after 6 months. So I will do that, Your Honor.
So you have an idea on what dyslipidemia is all about?
Yes, Your Honor. If
What is it?
It is a condition where a person has high triglycerides and cholesterol in the blood, causing the lipid value of the blood to be higher.
What about this hyperuricemia?
Hyperuricemia is when one has blood in the urine due to high uric acid in the blood. That's how I understand it, Your Honor.
And if not treated well, what happens?
If left untreated, Your Honor, then the person will develop symptoms such as pain in the joints. That's all the symptoms that I know, Your Honor, for high uric acid.
It will create stones sa kidney,
Okay.
and which would be a discomfiture on your part, though this is not life-threatening. Okay, from your net worth, let's go to your SALN. By the way, have you submitted all your SALNs as required by
Yes,
us?
yes, Your Honor. I submitted the SALNs for the period 2011 up to 2020.
Okay. So let's go to your SALN of 2018,
Okay, Your Honor.
which shows your net worth to be 40,585,855.70. In 2019, it increased by more or less 11 million. It increased to 51,862,855.70. Can you give us a reason behind the increase in a year's time?
Yes, Your Honor. I added the real property investments in the column for real properties. I added our investment in the property in Alviera Estates, Porac, Pampanga, and Ayala Greenfield, Your Honor, in Calamba, Laguna.
These were acquired by you only in 2019.
No, Your Honor. It was acquired through installment basis. And then we just made a lump sum payment at the end of the term of the contract, Your Honor.
But you should have included that in your 2018, even if it was those properties were purchased by installments.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you failed to do so.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh. All payments or purchases by installment should be included under your personal property or personal property, stating the real estate under uh, installment basis. Mm.
I will
But you
rectify.
failed to do so.
Yes, Your Honor. I will rectify in my next
Rectify it. Yeah. Okay. Now, earlier I asked you why you are applying for the Court of Tax Appeals. Are you a CPA?
No, Your Honor, I am not.
So any background or experience in taxation cases?
None at all, Your Honor. Actually, Your Honor, my priority is Sandigan Bayan. I just added the Court of Tax Appeals.
Assuming that you will be shortlisted in the Court of Tax Appeals, will you be ready for it, considering that you don't have any background on taxation?
Yes, Your Honor. I will study hard if ever I get nominated and then appointed.
Whenever you get promoted.
Yes, Your Honor.
But not before that.
Right before this interview, Your Honor, I had to study regarding tax cases so I can familiarize myself again with the latest jurisprudence. Your Honor, when I arrived in the drugs court, I was also groping in the dark that time, but I fared well, so everything can be learned, Your Honor.
Your court is a drugs court?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you have been there for 5 years.
5 and 7, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, now what is the plain view doctrine?
Plain view doctrine, it pertains to seizure of items or objects which are within the sight of a seizing officer.
Supposing an officer saw something or had an idea, and he in a car inspection, and he asked the driver to open the glove compartment, saw something there as a tray of drugs. Is that legal?
No, Your Honor, it is not, because search with regard to vehicles should be limited to a visual search. A flashing of light inside the car if it's nighttime. Uh, the officer cannot extend beyond a visual search, Your Honor.
Now, for almost 13 years as a lower court judge, there may have been instances where you had observed that a party in your courtroom was poorly represented by a counsel. Have you experienced one incident in your court?
Not poorly represented, Your Honor. It was just that the lawyer failed to comply with the MCLE requirements, and then he kept on filing pleadings despite warnings. So I cannot.
So what did you do? What did you do?
I warned the said counsel, Your Honor. The last order that I did, I copy furnished the IBP and the Supreme Court, and then thereafter he filed a motion to withdraw appearance. But poorly represented, Your Honor, fortunately, I have not encountered a lawyer who poorly represents his client.
Now, are you convinced that Filipinos have adequate access to legal help and the legal system today? If not, what can be done to provide a wider and better access?
Your Honor, just additional number of PAO lawyers, Your Honor, I think will be enough. With regard to the quality of the services of PAO, they have the best lawyers right now, Your Honor. The qualities of PAO lawyers right now have greatly improved.
Greatly, because the salary grade there has been increased also.
Yes, Your Honor.
Before, it used to be the poorer relative of the prosecution service.
Yes, Your Honor. Maybe that's, thank you for that, Your Honor. Maybe increasing some more the salary so there will be more applicants.
Uh-huh. Yes. Okay, I'll ask you simple questions, easy ones. The difficult ones will be asked by my colleagues later on. So what are the general types of taxes imposed under the Philippine tax system?
We have the income tax, Your Honor, taxes on real properties, customs duties, taxes on corporations, taxes on goods, taxes on services. That is all, Your Honor.
What about local taxes?
Yes, Your Honor, that is included in the types of taxes.
Which government agency or entity impose these taxes?
Primarily, the local government units, Your Honor, they are allowed under the local government code to impose taxes and revenue measures.
How about the Bureau of Customs? What taxes are they collecting?
They collect taxes on importation and exportation of goods. Basically, that is all that I know, Your Honor, with regard to taxes imposed by the DOC.
Does the Bureau of Customs impose tariff duties?
Yes, Your Honor, tariff rates. Yes, Your Honor.
What about the BIR?
The BIR is the one who implements the National Internal Revenue Code, and they are the ones who impose the income taxes, the taxes on corporations, and all other taxes, Your Honor.
So what are considered national internal revenue taxes?
National internal revenue taxes, Your Honor, include income taxes, the real property taxes, Your Honor.
There are more.
I cannot think of any else, Your Honor.
Kindly review, no? That section. Okay. Now, what is a VAT?
VAT is value-added tax. It is an indirect tax, Your Honor. It is imposed on someone, and that someone passes on that liability to pay tax to another. In VAT, it is imposed on the seller, but the seller passes on the tax to the buyer.
So, would you consider that a form of sales tax?
Yes, Your Honor. I think so, Your Honor.
And who are required to file the VAT returns or to pay VAT?
It is the seller, Your Honor, who is required to pay returns with regard to collection of the VAT.
Explain what is a percentage tax.
A percentage
You
tax,
got 90, ano yun? Ano yun nakuha mo sa taxation? 90?
it was 1994.
Oh, okay. Sige. What is a percentage tax?
It is imposed on goods with regard to the value, Your Honor. That's how I understand it.
Okay, let's go to another topic. Do local government units have the same taxing power as the national government?
No, Your Honor. Their taxing power is limited. They can only,
How limited is its taxing power?
their taxing power is should only be with regard to the persons and property in the locality.
Only to the extent that such power is delegated to it by the Constitution or by the statute. Okay. What is real property tax?
Real property tax is the tax imposed on property. It is also sometimes called ad valorem because it takes into consideration the value of the real property being taxed.
How about the machineries inside a sugar mill?
It depends, Your Honor,
Is that a real property?
if the owner of the mill intends the said machinery to be a permanent fixture in the said real property, then it is also considered as subject to real property tax.
So what then is the basis for computing a real property tax?
The value of the property, Your Honor.
What kind of value?
I think the assessed value, Your Honor, I am not sure. Sorry, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, when the BIR intends to investigate the taxes paid by a certain taxpayer, what does it do?
First,
These are basic questions, huh?
yes, Your Honor. First, it sends to the taxpayer notice that it will examine the books of records and any other records pertaining to his business. And then there is a conference after that examination. And then after that, if there is a finding that there is a tax liability, the BRR issues a preliminary assessment notice. And then the taxpayer has the right to explain the assessment, and then thereafter, if the explanation is not satisfactory, the BIR issues a final assessment notice, and then that's where the tax liability comes in, Your Honor.
Isn't that before the BIR can take action, it sends a notice to the taxpayer? Correct?
Okay.
So, anong mga forms ang BIR using to notify the taxpayer?
Your Honor, I I can only remember the PAN and the FAN, the preliminary assessment notice, the final assessment notice.
You haven't heard of the letter of authority,
Uh,
LOA.
no, Your Honor, I did not come across that in my readings.
Letter notice. Hindi rin. What about the mission order?
No, Your Honor, I did not come across that part.
Pasalamat ka, hindi tinanong yan sa bar exams. So, under what circumstance can a tax assessment become final and executory?
When the taxpayer fails to question the tax assessment
Mhm.
Within 30 days, Your Honor, and then he has another 60 days to submit records. And then if he does not do it, then the tax assessment becomes final.
Although you didn't apply for a post at the Court of Appeals, still I will have to question you on Rule 42.
Rule 42 pertains to appeal to the RTC with regard to the cases,
Ordinary appeal yan?
Your Honor. It is an ordinary appeal.
Ordinary appeal is Rule 41. Rule 42 refers to a petition for review from the RTC to the CA. So, what procedures are to be observed by the Court of Appeals after the filing of a petition for review under Rule 42?
Petition for review. Then it should require the appellant, Your Honor, to file the brief, and then the appellee should file his pleading thereafter.
Hindi ba first yung CA may require the respondent to file a comment?
Okay.
And then from there, ano?
And then from the comment,
It may
the appellant and
can it dismiss the petition?
Yes, Your Honor. If the Court of Appeals finds that the petition for review has no basis and is dismissible, then the Court of Appeals can dismiss the petition.
And dismiss the petition. If upon filing of the comment or after the expiration of the period for filing thereof without such comment, what shall the Court of Appeals do?
Then it can decide based on the appeal filed by the appellant, Your Honor.
What if it finds a prima facie that the lower court has committed an error of law or fact?
Then the Court of
What does
Appeals,
it do?
it can decide accordingly, Your Honor. It can rule on the merits of the appeal, Your Honor.
It may give due course to the petition. And if the petition is given due course, what is done?
If the petition is given due course, then it will require the respondent to file comment, Your Honor.
It may give due course to the petition, no? And it may set the case for oral argument or require the parties to submit memoranda. Okay? If a petition under Rule 42 is filed, when does the RTC lose jurisdiction over a case? Mga basic ito lahat, Judge, ha?
It loses jurisdiction over the case, Your Honor, when the Court of Appeals finds that the appeal is meritorious and that it finds basis for the appeal, Your Honor.
upon the perfection of the appeals, file in due time. Yun. And the expiration of the time to appeal of the other parties. Now, after the RTC loses jurisdiction over the case, may it still act with respect to the appeal case?
No more, Your Honor. Since it loses jurisdiction, it cannot anymore act on the appeal case.
Okay. Will the appeal under Rule 42 stay the judgment of a final order of the RTC?
No, Your Honor, it will not unless a petition for restraining order is filed with the appellate court, Your Honor.
Kindly review this portion, huh?
Okay.
Now, is payment of the appeal docket fees mandatory for appellate court to have jurisdiction of the appeal?
Yes, Your Honor, because under the rules, it perfects the appeal.
What about if the docket fees were paid late and the court accepted it? What happens?
The other party, Your Honor, can still question and allege that the appeal was not deemed perfected because of non-payment or late payment of the docket fee.
Under what jurisprudence? Do you remember?
No more.
Lazaro versus CA of 2000. It states that late payment of the docket fees cannot be excused, and it was an error for the appellate court to have accepted the appeal where the appeal docket fee was not paid within the period for taking the appeal. Okay. Now, Judge, how are you as a person? Are you emotionally stable?
I am, Your Honor. I have a health problem, but it does not.
That's on the medical side. Emotion. You get depressed? Are you a sensitive person? Do you get easily hurt by criticisms hurled on you?
No, Your Honor. I do not get hurt when it comes to criticisms. I have been a judge for 13 years. One party will lose and the other will win. So it is part of the profession that some people will hate me and some people will agree.
But what if you are criticized destructively? How will you handle the situation?
If the criticism has no basis, Your Honor, then I would be hurt.
You would be hurt, and therefore you are a sensitive person.
In a way, Your Honor, yes. In a way.
And being a sensitive person, do you allow this to affect your competence as a judge?
No, Your Honor, because it should not affect my competence as a judge. It should not in any way affect my decision making, my functions as a judge, my functions as administrative head of an office, Your Honor.
For many years, you have been the presiding judge of a certain RTC station, and you decide solely on your own. What if you will be promoted? Are you prepared to coexist with your fellow justices?
Yes, Your Honor, because if ever I get appointed, that will be the nature of my new job, that I will be acting in a collegial court where I will be sitting with two other justices who have different opinions that contrast to what I have. So I am ready to embrace the said change, Your Honor, if ever I get appointed.
Judge, my last questions. you have been diagnosed to be suffering from certain ailments. Now, will this not affect you in your later years when you are being promoted, considering that the work at the Court of Appeals or the Court of Tax Appeals and the Sandigan Bayan are very complex and time consuming?
Which ailment, Your Honor? The one regarding my back?
I didn't get you.
Which ailment, Your Honor?
Yun, the ones that appear in your medical report.
Your Honor, hyperglycemia,
All of them. Are you
they,
a diabetic, by the way? Are you a diabetic?
no, Your Honor, I am not. They can be addressed medically, Your Honor. I can take prescription medicines.
Uh,
I can diet. I can control my eating. I can exercise so that I will become healthier, Your Honor.
so you are under medication.
Not yet, Your Honor. I have to repeat my blood chem after 6 months from August. And then
Okay.
if the levels are still high, then I do not have a choice to have to take medications, Your Honor.
Okay, Judge, my last question. What is it in you that can convince me to include you in my short list?
With regard to my application in the Sandigan Bayan, Your Honor, among all the applicants I have researched already, I am the only one who came from the institution. So I have a background of the nature of work in the Sandigan Bayan. I have 6 years of experience there. So if only for that, I have an advantage over the other applicants, Your Honor.
That's your preference, but what about the CTA?
Yes, Your Honor.
Convince me.
I am willing to learn, Your Honor. I'm willing to attend studies so I can improve my knowledge in taxation, Your Honor. Maybe I will also hire the best lawyers who will help me in dispensing my task as a justice if ever I get appointed, Your Honor.
Okay, Judge, that was my last question. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Your
Good
Honor.
luck. Good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
And
Thank you
stay
very
safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Judge de Monteverde.
Thank you, Attorney Ann.
In review, Judge Casino is Honorable Justice Noel Jimenez Tijan.
Thank you, Attorney Ann. Good morning. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Are you tired already?
I'm nervous, Your Honor.
Nervous. I'll just ask a few questions. So what is your, before I go to the questions, your SALN reflects a dramatic increase in network. I will not ask you anymore to explain, but the members of the council are very meticulous about sudden increases in the network on a year-to-year basis. So you just submit email and explanation so that all of the members of the council will be informed accordingly.
I will, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. When a law contains a separability clause, what do you mean by that?
That when a law contains a separability clause, that means that any of the provisions, if ever declared unconstitutional, will not affect the validity of the law as a whole.
What is the doctrine of operative facts?
Doctrine of operative fact, when a law is declared unconstitutional, any acts done prior to the declaration of unconstitutionality will be recognized on the basis of fair play, Your Honor.
Mhm.
Fairness, Your Honor. Sorry.
Okay. A few questions on the CTA. Does the CTA have jurisdiction to rule on the constitutionality or validity of a tax law or regulation?
Yes, Your Honor, because it has exclusive jurisdiction on all tax cases, then it follows that it can rule on the validity or constitutionality of any tax measure.
What is the scope of the power of judicial review in taxation?
Um, Taxation, Your Honor, is an inherent power, and the judiciaries should, as much as possible, not interfere with any legislative measure imposing taxes. Uh, I think the principle of judicial restraint applies when it comes to judicial review of any tax measures.
Can the Commissioner of Internal Revenue grant a refund or a tax credit even without a written claim for refund or tax credit?
I do not think so, Your Honor, because a refund and a tax credit has to have basis for its grant.
So you're saying, even if based on the records submitted, there is entitlement to a refund or tax credit, if the taxpayer does not ask for it, it is deemed waived?
Not waived, Your Honor, but there is a requirement in the law, Your Honor, that the taxpayer has the option whether to avail of a tax refund or a tax credit. So I think it presupposes that there is a notice to the taxpayer that you have such refund and an additional inquiry as to whether are you availing of a tax credit.
So
Sorry.
if the BIR, upon examination of return, finds that there is an overpayment of tax, if the taxpayer does not ask for a refund, the BIR will keep it? Is that what you're saying?
I think, Your Honor, the BIR will send a notice to the taxpayer that you have overpaid your tax liability.
And if there is no response, the BIR will keep it? Is that what you're saying?
I think no, Your Honor, because that will be unjust enrichment, Your Honor.
What legal principle is involved in tax refund?
Solutio indebiti, Your Honor, or principle of unjust enrichment.
So that is the basis.
Yes, Your Honor.
So let's go to Sandigan Bayan. Your preference is it the Sandigan or the Court of Tax Appeal? Which office is nearer your residence? That seems to be your practical consideration. You don't want to apply with the Court of Appeals because you might, if appointed, you might be assigned to the Visayas or Mindanao. I think that is what you're afraid of.
I have a minor daughter, Your Honor. I do not want to leave her behind.
So which court, which appellate court is your preference?
Sandigan Bayan, Your Honor.
That is Sandigan Bayan. In the Sandigan Bayan, what is the period to resolve or decide a demurrer to evidence?
30 days, Your Honor.
30 days. You will amend the rules and make it 30 days.
Sorry, Your Honor.
How many votes are needed to decide the case in the Sandigan Bayan?
If by division, Your Honor, and if the case was filed after the effectivity of RA 10660, then a majority in the division is enough. If before RA
So what is the majority of the division?
2, Your Honor, because there are 3 justices in a division.
3. Okay. What about unbanked? What is the vote required?
I think majority, Your Honor, of all the members of the Sindigan Bayan which are present.
Section 42A of the National Internal Revenue Code, the tax code, embodies a set of situs rules and provides which are Philippine sourced income. So the question is the enumeration exclusive? That's the question.
I think so, Your Honor.
It is exclusive. What about the sale of airline tickets in the Philippines by a foreign airline with no landing rights in the Philippines? Is that considered to be income from Philippine sources? If the tickets are given in the Philippines and the payment is also made in the Philippines. We are talking of sale of tickets, but the foreign airlines does not have landing rights in the Philippines. Is that income from Philippine sources?
Yes, Your Honor, it is income from Philippine sources according to the Supreme Court in the case of, sorry, Your Honor, if I will get the airline wrong, British Airways, I think. They were taxed on sales of tickets done through an agent in the Philippines, and the Supreme Court said they are considered income from the Philippines because the sales of tickets is the lifeblood of an airline company.
What is the ruling of the U.S. Supreme Court in the case of Miranda versus Arizona?
That after a person is arrested, he has to be informed of his constitutional rights, to remain silent, to have the assistance of counsel, that anything he says can and may be used against him in a court of law.
So any statement without the presence of a lawyer during custodial investigation, what is the effect of that?
It is inadmissible in evidence, Your Honor.
Supposing an inmate inside the jail facility makes a confession to inmate, another inmate, but the other inmate is an undercover police officer, is that covered by the Miranda ruling? And therefore, the confession can be considered inadmissible?
I do not think so, Your Honor, because when that inmate admits to the commission of a crime, he was not under custodial investigation.
So the confession will be considered admissible?
Yes, Your Honor. But it will be hearsay, Your Honor.
What about fingerprinting of the accused? Can it be done without the presence of counsel?
In one case, Your Honor, the Supreme Court said that the giving of the urine specimen without the presence of counsel is
Well, we
unconstitutional.
are talking of fingerprinting.
By analogy, Your Honor, since it is giving an accused giving an evidence which may be used against him, then I think
You need the presence of counsel.
it can be questioned, Your Honor.
What about giving a handwriting sample without the presence of a lawyer? Is that admissible in evidence?
I think it falls within the same classification, Your Honor. I will give the same answer, Your Honor.
A police lineup. You know what the police lineup is? Without the presence of a lawyer, is that allowed? Is that admissible if the witness points to the accused as the culprit without the presence of a lawyer, is that admissible?
Yes, Your Honor, because the one who it is not the accused who gives out the evidence against him. It is another person. It is a witness identifying the said person as the one who committed an offense.
What about a lie detector test? Should it be done in the presence of a lawyer? And therefore, if it is conducted without a lawyer present, it is considered to be inadmissible. What about that?
Um, I I will have to take exception to that, Your Honor, because I think a lie detector test proceeding can be recorded, so it can be reviewed by a lawyer after the taking of the testimony through the lie detector test.
All right, my last question is this. Supposing the police is surveilling or casing a building suspected to be the venue of drug operations. And while the police is surveilling the place, a person comes out of the building and while walking through the parking lot is stopped, accosted, accosted by the police. And then the person is asked to exhibit his identification, his ID. And the person gives the ID to the police, and the police checks it with their office through a computer, a laptop. And they discovered that this person has an existing warrant for a traffic violation. Traffic violation. So there was a traffic violation and he did not pay. He ran away. Okay. So the police checked that through the ID that he has a traffic violation. And so the police arrested the person because he has a warrant of arrest. And while searching his garments, they found drugs. The question is, the drugs seized from the person, is it admissible in evidence?
Your Honor, let me clarify. There is a warrant of arrest issued by a court against him, or was there a traffic citation ticket appearing in the records?
There is a warrant of arrest because of a traffic violation.
If
So he was walking through the parking lot. He was stopped by the police. He was asked for identifications. And the person showed his ID. And then they checked it with the headquarters. And they found out that he has an existing warrant for a traffic violation. And so they arrested him and searched his body, and they found out that he has drugs in his body. Are the drugs admissible in evidence if the police later on files charges for drug possession?
Your Honor, I think the drug is admissible in evidence. There was more than one circumstance which prompted the said
Is
police
there
officer.
probable cause? Is there probable cause?
I think so, Your Honor, because
What is the probable cause?
he came from a building under surveillance. That's why the police officers have the right to stop and ask him. And then when they check the office and he has a pending warrant of arrest, that's the time that they arrested him, Your Honor, if I understand your question correctly.
So that's probable cause. All
I
right.
think
So all Filipinos having existing traffic violations can be stopped, seized, and searched. Is that what you're saying?
no, Your Honor, when he was stopped, I think the reason of the policeman was because he came from a building which was under surveillance. So
Was
anyone,
that a valid stoppage of the person by the police?
um, initially, no, Your Honor, but when they found that he has a violation and arrested him because of that, then the, there is probable cause already for searching the said person, Your Honor.
And my final question is, what is the doctrine, the attenuation doctrine in unreasonable searches and seizure? Have you heard about it?
No, Your Honor.
Attenuation, Attenuation.
I have not heard of that,
Can
Your
you
Honor.
make an educated guess while there's still time?
Um, Attenuating circumstances pertains to other circumstances.
When you say fruit of the poisonous tree, there is an illegal act or conduct on the part of the police, and then the seizure of the drugs, for example. So, in the example I gave, was the drug a fruit of a poisonous tree or not?
Since my answer, Your Honor, was the arrest was valid, then I have to declare that the drug is not a fruit of a poisonous tree.
So, there was no police misconduct in that example.
I believe so, Your Honor.
All right. So, you just research on the meaning of attenuation doctrine and also research of the case of Schiff versus Utah, decided by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge, for your time, and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Justice Tiham. The next to interview Judge Casenio is Honorable Judge Toribio E. Ilao Jr. Your Honor, please.
Yes, thank you, Attorney Ann. Yes, it's still morning. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Mito Shela Reyes Manzanero Pasino. Where did your parents get the name Mito Shela? How do we pronounce this?
Yes, Your Honor. You pronounced it correctly, Your Honor. My father got my name from the Bible, Methuselah. He was the oldest man who ever lived for 969 years. He was the grandfather of Noah. He just tweaked the spelling a bit, Your Honor. But it came from Methuselah.
Sa Tagalog, Methusalem.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Pag babae pala, Methusalem. Really. Alright, when asked by the observation of Justice Tiham, because of the increase of your SALN in the years 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, you were required or have been advised by Justice Tiham just to email and to explain how the trend of such increase. But
Yes,
for
yes.
me, not to depart from the rule that this is a public panel interview. Just for the sake of transparency, can we go on? This opportune time for you to explain how were you able to increase your net worth in 2015 by over 8 million?
Yes,
I
Your
understand from the record that your husband is also a lawyer.
Yes, Your Honor. He's Vice President of Telecom, Your Honor, for the last 17 years.
Globe Telecoms.
Yes, Your Honor.
Globe.
Yes.
All right, could you explain the said increase of your net worth in 2015 by over 8 million? Do you have your records with you?
Yes, Your Honor. As pointed out by Judge De Monteverde a while ago, Your Honor, I made a mistake in not including in the previous years the purchase price which I have already paid to the real properties which we have acquired through purchase by installment. For 2015 to 2016, Your Honor, I added in the 2016 assets the 4 million purchase price of the Avida Prime Taft property. There was an increase in the value of our jewelry and other personal properties in the amount of 500,000, an increase of 900,000 with regard to our cash on hand, an increase of 500,000 with regard to the value of our paintings, and the payment of 1.713881, Your Honor, to a condominium unit which we also purchased through installment from Mega World.
All right. You're applying as an Associate Justice of the Court of Tax Appeals as well as Associate Justice of the Sandigan Bayan.
Yes, Your Honor.
What are your expectations in the appellate courts?
That I will be working in an entirely new environment, in an entirely new work environment, because the Sandigan Bayan and the Court of Tax Appeals is a collegial court. I will have to consult, decide with, and two other justices. I will have a greater responsibility because the Court of Tax Appeals and the Sandigan Bayan are appellate court and a court of original jurisdiction for the part of Sandigan Bayan, which decides cases against government official, high-ranking government officials. So it will be a more challenging part of my career, Your Honor.
And what do you think is the most important quality that an Associate Justice of a Sandigan Bayan or the Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals must possess?
Always, Your Honor, as long as you are one has to have competence, integrity, probity, and independence. It does not matter whether you are a justice or a judge of a lower court.
All right, this is a self-serving one. Do you possess that?
I believe so, Your Honor,
How so?
because in my 13 years in the judiciary, Your Honor, I had only one administrative case, and it was regarding service of summons. There was no other complaints filed against me. I think that's my only answer, Your Honor.
All right, going back to your present caseload, what is your present caseload? 3,989?
Sorry, Your Honor, that was a mistake. I interpreted it to mean as caseload, Your Honor. It is 737 as of end of October 30, 2020, Your Honor. That is the total number of caseload from the start of my being presiding judge in a drugs court, Your Honor, and not the current caseload.
What is your court? Is it a court of general jurisdiction or a special court?
I handle a special drugs court, Your Honor.
You handle
Special drugs court, Your Honor.
special drugs court. Oh. What place in Laguna is prevalent of so many drugs cases?
Laguna, Your Honor.
Before, when you
I
were an first level court judge?
I had no drugs cases when I was in first level court, Your Honor, because
That among in the regional trial court, please.
regional trial, I was not an RTC judge in Laguna, Your Honor. I became an RTC judge in 2015 and I was assigned in Quezon City.
Yes, in this place, Quezon City.
Yes, Your Honor.
What is the rate of drugs cases in Quezon City?
Your Honor, just for this pandemic, 85% of the total cases filed are drugs cases.
So can you discuss your platform for each of the appellate court you are applying for? Let's start with the Court of Tax Appeals.
Platform.
Yes. What novel reforms are going to introduce to better serve the public and and administer justice? Let's start with the Court of Tax Appeals.
I honestly, Your Honor, I have to find out first if there are problems in the institution because before I can decide on whether I have to introduce changes in the setup of the said court, Your Honor.
All right, my question in relation to tax cases. Can the Court of Tax Appeals in bank take cognizance of a petition for annulment of judgment of its own division?
Yes, Your Honor. The decision of a division in the Court of Tax Appeals can be elevated to the Court of Tax Appeals en banc. So it can annul judgment of divisions.
And what is your basis on this?
The interim rules of the Court of Tax Appeals, Your Honor.
But have you heard or learned the case of CIR versus KEPCO, Iligan Corporation, GR number 199422, June 21, 2016, by then the Justice Peralta?
Is this with regard to the compromise, Your Honor? Sorry.
Yes, still the petition for annulment of judgment of its own division.
Yes, Your Honor. I think the Court of Tax Appeals can annul the decisions of its own division.
Well, I'm sorry, the court said no. The divisions are not considered separate and distinct courts, but are divisions of one and the same court. There is no hierarchy of courts within the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals. How about the case of what are the requisites for the issuance of a final assessment notice? FAN.
If after the issuance of a preliminary assessment notice, then the taxpayer does not question or does not introduce evidence as to why the said assessment is incorrect, then the BIR will issue a final assessment notice.
Now let's go to your to the Sandigan Bayan. You're eyeing for also as an associate justice.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sandigan Bayan is a highly specialized court.
Yes, Your Honor.
Not only does decide on the graft and corruption cases, but it is also a collegiate court that conducts trial. How have you prepared yourself to take on the delicate task of being an associate justice of the Sandigan Bayan?
Your Honor, my 6 years experience as court attorney in the said institution will help me a lot. My background, which I got from my work as court attorney in the Sandigan Bayan, have familiarized me enough with the processes and with the workings inside the said court, Your Honor.
And what specific reforms will you undertake if you and when nominated and appointed as an associate justice of the Sandigan Bayan to make a substantial contribution not only to the benefit of the bench, bar, but also to the private sector?
As in regard to the Court of Tax Appeals, Your Honor, I have to find out first if there are things which need reform in the said institution before I can decide on whether there are changes which have to be made.
Do you agree that magistrates as well as lawyers should be abreast with recent legal development or recent cases promulgated by the court or Supreme Court?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. The same is true with regard to other lawyers. The Supreme Court mandates that they should have a mandatory continuing legal education. So I think the same goes true with magistrates.
As part of the Sandigan Bayan, you will also manage your office, especially your docket. How do you plan to manage your court docket and submit your ponencia on time?
By working hard, I will see to it that I meet deadlines. I will finish the job even before the deadline. I will hire competent staffs who can help me in the drafting of resolutions, decisions, and any other orders which I should prepare in connection with the performance of my duties as a justice.
All right, let's go to criminal law case. What is the very essence of evident premeditation?
Evident premeditation exists when a person planned the commission of a crime and then there is and decides to commit it, and he plans on the means, methods, and forms as to how he will commit the said crime and ensure its execution. That's how I understand evident premeditation, Your Honor.
And how would you define illegal recruitment in large scale under Public Act 8042, otherwise known as the Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipinos Act of 1995? Are you aware of this?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
People versus David?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I have not come across this case.
Judge, are you more of a hunter or a gatherer?
Hunter, Your Honor.
Why do you say you're more of a hunter? Hunting what?
I am more of a hunter. As I understand gatherer, he is someone who keeps on accumulating something, while a hunter is someone who tirelessly finds opportunities um, to improve his life, Your Honor. That's how I understand it.
All right, my last question. What would you do differently if you knew no one would judge you?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Nothing. Why?
Because, as they say, integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching it. So I will not do it any other way, Your Honor. Even if no one is watching me, I will still do what I do. I will not do anything differently just because no one is there to see it.
All right, that was my last question. Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
already past 12. And good luck, Judge. By the way, when did you graduate from Sambeda College?
1993, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Judge Ilaw. It is now the turn of our Executive Committee Chairperson, Honorable Justice Jose Catral Mendoza, to interview Judge Casino. Your Honor, please.
Okay, morning, Judge.
Morning po.
Morning. My colleagues covered a lot of areas. So naubusan na ako for you. You're applying in the Court of Appeals and Sandigan Bayan only, not the Court of Tax Appeals, I mean. Yes, Court of Tax Appeals, I'm sorry.
It's okay, Your Honor.
Oh. You also work in a bank, PNB.
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, so this is easy for you. You also presided over a court of general jurisdiction in Quezon City before being appointed to a drugs court, right?
Yes, Your Honor. Branch 2, Your Honor.
Yes, okay. Now, you can easily answer this because you work in a bank. And what is the remedy of a buyer in a public auction conducted after the conducted because of a foreclosure or extrajudicial foreclosure of mortgage?
Buyer has the right of redemption, Your Honor. You can exercise the right of redemption.
Alisin. Pardon. Just a moment.
Okay, Your Honor.
Paalisin nga eh.
It's okay, Your Honor. Your Honor. Ma'am?
Can you repeat your answer?
He can exercise the right of redemption, Your Honor, to buy back the property which was foreclosed.
No. My question was the right of the purchaser. So he's nothing to redeem. Oh, siguro maingay aso ko, you did not hear.
Sorry, Your Honor. The option of the right of the purchaser, Your Honor, is to wait for the 1-year period, and then thereafter, if the one who lost the property did not exercise his right of redemption, then the title will be consolidated in his name.
Suppose somebody is in possession what is his remedy? Does he have a remedy? It's an extrajudicial proceeding.
As long as he becomes the owner, Your Honor, then he can exercise all the rights of ownership, like file an action for ejectment of the said occupant. If the said
Ejectment.
occupant has no legal right or title whatsoever,
Can he not, aside from ejectment, can he not file a petition for writ of possession?
oh yes, sorry, Your Honor.
You handled such cases, right?
No, Your Honor,
In 219,
yes, Your Honor.
and also in the bank?
Not in the bank, Your Honor.
Not in the bank. Not in the bank.
In the documentation division,
Only in the documentation division.
we prepared on
You were not
in the litigation.
not in litigation. Okay. Now, what is the nature of such proceeding?
Danger, Your Honor, it is a proceeding in rem, Your Honor, because it relates to real property.
What else?
It is an adversarial proceeding because it relates to conflict of rights. I cannot think of anything more, Your Honor.
You mentioned it is an adversarial proceeding. Is it not? Can it not be ex parte proceeding?
The writ of possession, Your Honor?
Yes. Can it not be ex parte?
I think no,
You handled that. Oh. Is it an adversarial proceeding or it should be ex parte?
It is an extrajudicial foreclosure, Your Honor. So
Yes, extrajudicial, yes.
So,
And the title has been consolidated. Somebody is in possession.
yes, Your Honor, the purchaser can file an ex parte writ of possession. So
It's
that
an ex parte. So you do not notify anybody.
yes, Your Honor, because
Yes, you call it ex parte, di ba?
yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Now, there has been several jurisprudence that although a purchaser at a public action can file a petition for writ of possession, there are exceptions. Suppose the judge has already issued a writ of possession. In what instance is the sheriff not allowed to proceed with its implementation, or even the court?
If Your Honor, the one who originally owned the property filed the case in court, questioning the issuance of the writ of possession.
You mean to say you will not implement it? He filed, a writ of possession was filed, and then he filed a separate case for annulment of the foreclosure proceedings,
Yes, Your Honor.
right? So in such case, you cannot implement?
I think so, Your Honor, as long as the previous owner can prove that there was an irregularity attendant to the first in the sale of the property and then in the issue.
For example, it's not yet finished, still pending. After the issuance of the writ of possession, the borrower filed the case for annulment of the foreclosure proceeding. So, pending the case of annulment, can the judge proceed or the sheriff proceed in implementing the writ of possession?
I do not think so, Your Honor.
It cannot proceed?
Yes, Your Honor, because the validity of the writ of possession presupposes a valid sale. So if there is a question on the sale itself, Your Honor, then I think it would be premature to implement the writ of possession.
So it will be a useless exercise. It is a useless remedy. The petition for issuance of writ of possession, if by mere filing of an annulment of the annulment proceedings, you do not implement it.
Yes, I would think so, Your Honor.
You're sure of that?
Not really sure, Your Honor.
You're not really sure of many cases and that. Assuming that the mortgagor did not file an annulment proceeding, or is there any instance when the court or the sheriff not implement or cannot implement the writ?
If there is no case filed, Your Honor, then there is no issue as to the issuance of the writ of possession. That is why the sheriff can already implement the writ.
Suppose the occupant is uh, uh, suppose the occupant opposes the writ. Oh, can he do that? The occupant, he was not notified ex parte. Can the occupant question that?
No more, Your Honor,
It's ex parte.
if he cannot present proof, Your Honor, as to why the writ of possession should not be implemented, then I think he does not have the right to object to the implementation of the writ.
Suppose he is occupying the property or his possession is adverse to that of the obligor, mortgagor obligor. Can the court or the sheriff proceed with the implementation?
I think so, Your Honor.
Oh, you also review that. I thought it was a giveaway because you work in a bank and you stayed in 219. Okay, we will go to where you applied CTA. I'm sure you are very familiar with the CTA. What is the mode of appeal from a division of the CTA? From a judgment, what is the remedy?
Rule 43, Your Honor, petition for review in the Court of Appeals. If it's a division, then there's another remedy, Your Honor, to appeal to the en banc, because the en banc has jurisdiction to review
Okay.
the decisions of the division.
Your answer was that there was another remedy. You mean to say the other one, first answer was a correct remedy?
No, my second answer was the correct remedy, Your
How
Honor.
about the first answer?
It is after the decision of the CTA already, the CTA en banc on the case, Your Honor.
Are you
Where
sure that after the decision of the CTA and bank, you go to the Court of Appeals? Are you sure? Or you go to the Supreme Court?
a Court of Appeals, Your Honor.
You go to the Court of Appeals. And what is the mode of appeal from a division of a CTA?
Appeal, Your Honor. Appeal to the en banc.
Yes, what is the mode of appeal?
Petition for review, Your Honor.
Petition for review. Yes, okay. There are two petitions for review mentioned there. One is Rule 42 and one is under Rule 43. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, where does it say that you go to the Court of Appeals?
In Rule 43, Your Honor.
In Rule 43, you go to the Court of Appeals.
Yes, Your Honor.
When does a taxpayer avail of Rule 42?
Rule 42, Your Honor, when there is an adverse decision of the municipal trial court or the regional trial court on a tax case, then he can appeal to the Court of Appeals under Rule 42.
42. And in what case is a petition for review filed under Rule 43?
Petition for review under Rule 43 pertains to appeals from Court of Tax Appeals Sandigan Bayan, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, the decision of a CTA division has become final and executory. No? In the Court of Appeals, you can file a petition for annulment of judgment on ground of lack of jurisdiction and extrinsic fraud. Now, the rules, the internal rules of the Court of Appeal says that the rules of court shall be applied suppletorily. Now, can the taxpayer avail of that remedy suppletorily? In the CTA and bank?
I do not think so, Your Honor, because when the judgment of the division becomes final and executory, then the taxpayer loses the right to file any action to question the decision of the division.
But in the RTC, your decision, even if it is final and executory, you can file a petition for annul of judgment. The standard litigant can file it before the Court of Appeals under Rule 47. Now, can you avail of this suppletorily?
I still know, Your Honor, because when he gets an adverse decision from the Court of Tax Appeals through its division, he has another remedy to elevate the case to question the said ruling through the Court of Tax Appeals and bank. And by not...
Yes, but what I mentioned is you cannot go anymore to the Court of Appeals and bank via a petition for review because the decision has already become final. Now, the remedy of a party when a decision of the RTC becomes final is to go to the Court of Appeals under Rule 47. Right?
Yes, sir.
Now, the decision of the CTA division has become final. And the taxpayer invoke lack of jurisdiction and extrinsic fraud. Can he do that?
Okay, I'll change my answer, Your Honor.
You'll change your answer.
Those are two grounds for annulment of judgment. So if the grounds are a lack of jurisdiction and extrinsic fraud, then I think the taxpayer can file a case for annulment of judgment.
In the CTA.
Not anymore, Your Honor. I think in the Court of Appeals, Your
The
Honor.
Court of Tax, in the Court of Appeals, you question the CTA division ruling.
Oh, then I don't go back to my previous answer
You
anymore.
go back to your previous answer. And
Yeah.
your previous answer was,
He has to exercise the right to appeal to the CTA and bank.
no, you cannot appeal because the decision of the CTA division is final and executory. But he found out that he invoked in extrinsic fraud. Oh, so can he file an annulment of judgment before the CTA and bank, not the Court of Appeals?
Um,
You said you changed your answer. Oh,
no, Your Honor, because
Hmm.
I think the jurisdiction of the CTA and bank is to
Yes,
correct the errors of the divisions
yes. So
deciding cases. So the petition for annulment of judgment should be filed with the CTA and bank
he can file it.
for the court to be given the opportunity to correct its judgment, the judgment of a division.
Oh, you may be tired. This
Yeah.
was asked of you by Judge Ilaw that you cannot file an annulment of judgment before the CTA. You forgot? Yeah. Yeah, CIR versus Ilihan. Anyway, your opinion. You have not read the case. What was the reason given by the Supreme Court in saying that the CTA has no such jurisdiction?
Um, Considering that the judgment of the division, as you said, Your Honor, is final and executory, maybe um, the Supreme Court apply the doctrine of immutability of judgments.
The reason given by the Supreme Court was that the annulment of judgment is an original jurisdiction of the Court of Appeals, which was not provided for in the laws creating the CTA. I mean to say, the law creating the CTA and its amendment. That was the reason. You forgot what Judge Ilaw mentioned to you. Kakala ko maalala nyo eh.
My mind is so Honor. I do not,
You already nervous siguro.
Your Honor, yes, I'm very nervous.
Yes, oo. What is the difference between a letter of notice and a letter of yung or what do you call this, LOA and an LN? Do you know what is an LN?
Letter of notice, Your Honor.
Yes.
Letter LOA, letter of assessment.
Yes. What is the difference between the two?
The
There are three. There are three substantial differences. What are they? If you know,
I do not know, Your Honor, but I can guess.
you can guess. Oh, yes, okay.
A letter of assessment is a preliminary notice to the taxpayer that is assessed a tax liability and that is given a certain period to explain the said assessment, while a letter of notice comes after the letter of assessment, and it happens when the taxpayer fails to satisfactorily explain why the said assessment should not be made against him.
What else?
A letter of notice is issued when the taxpayer failed to comply with the letter of assessment. He did not file any explanation. He did not question the said assessment. Then the BIR will subsequently issue a letter of notice, Your Honor.
Okay. With respect to each nature, with respect to each implementing period of prescription,
I think the taxpayer.
I will help you. The LOA is valid only for 30 days. How about an LN?
There are 30, 60, and 180 days. I think 60 days, Your Honor. I did not.
Anyway, you admitted that you did not read it. So no problem with that. Oh. You know, what is your understanding of an LOA?
It is a notice sent to a taxpayer assessing him of tax liability, Your Honor.
Yes. Oh. Can it be dispensed with?
Your Honor, I think it cannot be dispensed with. It is part of due process that the taxpayer has to be informed that he has incurred a tax liability and that he is given a period to explain or rebut the said assessment, Your Honor.
Okay. A letter of authority was issued by the BIR to a certain examiner, but he was transferred. Can her or his substitute use that?
I think so, Your Honor, because the letter of authority was issued based on an examination of a competent authority. It would be a repetition of the same job if the next examiner will have to repeat the examination of records again.
Okay. There's a case on that Salcedo Ristorante versus CIR. It says that it cannot use it. Now, the issue of the letter of authority was not raised in the CTA. Can the court motu proprio take cognizance of such issue?
I think so, Your Honor.
It can be raised. Can it be? It was not raised as an issue in the pleadings, and it was not even raised by the parties. Can the Court of Tax Appeals motu proprio cover that and rule on that?
I think so, Your Honor. I did not read a case with the same issue, Your Honor, but I think the Court of Appeals can rule on that because if the letter of authority is invalid, so it will be prejudicial to the taxpayer if if the same is not resolved by the Court of Appeals, even if he does not raise it.
So the Court of Appeals has been given such power. That is your opinion.
Your Honor.
Now you are, from your records, it appears that you are an investor in so many companies, correct?
My husband, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Yes, by
It is his exclusive
It becomes,
Because you mentioned it is as an investment. It is conjugal.
yes, Your Honor, it's conjugal. Yes, Your
It's
Honor.
conjugal, right? What do you call that interest computed for the purpose of determining opportunity cost of investing funds in a given business? You must be familiar with that because you are a stockholder of so many businesses, companies.
I do not know, Your Honor.
You do not know?
My husband, Your Honor, who is fond of investing in stocks.
Mm. But you got a high grade in taxation, right?
Yes, Your Honor. 20
Yes.
years ago, Your Honor.
Yes. Oh, maybe you, you will remember it. It is theoretical interest. Anyway, can a tax assessment be made without a complete audit?
No, Your Honor, because one of the procedures to be followed by an examiner is an examination of all the records and books of accounts of a taxpayer.
Yes. What do you call that assessment when there is no complete or partial audit?
Sorry, Your Honor, I do not know the term, Your Honor.
Jeopardy assessment.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. You are also applying in the Sandigan Bayan. So because you stayed there for 6 years, you have mastered uh, the various laws uh, in the Sandigan Bayan. Most important is the Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have a mastery of it, correct?
13 years ago, Your Honor.
Oh, yes. What is the general mode of procurement?
Through bidding, Your Honor.
Through public bidding, and there are several exceptions, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Can you give me at least there are several? 5?
Emergency procurement, Your Honor. Like
Emergency procurement.
when there is
Yes.
calamity, there can be procurement without going through the process of bidding. When there is, sorry, Your Honor, I did not read all the exceptions. Urgency, Your Honor. Sorry, Your Honor.
Oh, I thought you mastered this already. Oh. Now you mentioned contingency or calamity or what? Section 52 of the law says you can resort to shopping. What is shopping? Very easy.
Shopping, Your Honor, when you buy goods or items,
What are the two essential elements where you are allowed to purchase through shopping?
that the said purchase falls within the exception requiring a public bidding, Your Honor.
Yes, it is one of the exceptions. Oh,
Sorry, Your Honor, I did not come
you
across
forget? No? Shopping?
shopping, Your Honor.
Oh, where there are at least 3 price quotations from bona fide suppliers. You remember that? Uh, they are readily available off the shelf, such goods. Oh, and it is procured directly from the suppliers of known qualifications. There you can resort to shopping. And to my question, the answer is when there is an unforeseen contingency requiring immediate purchase and the amount does not exceed 50,000. Okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh. You remember that? No, you have not come across it. Because I will ask you the other situation.
No,
Not
Your
yet. Oh.
During my time in the Sandigan Bayan, Your Honor, it was majority PCGG cases, Your Honor.
PCGG cases. Oh. Oh, you must have heard of this case. Oh. The PCGG wanted to lease automobiles. It resorted to uh, direct negotiation. Can the PCG do that? These are public vehicles.
I do not think so, Your Honor, because procurement of public properties has to comply with the requirements on public bidding.
Okay. According to the respondent, he was allowed to resort to negotiated bidding. He was allowed to resort to negotiated bidding because it was a repeat order. The previous commissioners also leased the automobiles without public bidding. How? What are the requirements of an authorized repeat order? Palabasin mo yun.
Sorry, Your Honor, I do not know also.
Oo. Ito tayo. In Section 53 covered negotiated procurement. Right? Letter F states that in the case of individual consultants hired to do work that is highly technical or proprietary or primarily confidential or policy determining, you are allowed to resort to public bidding. What are the other requirements when you can resort to direct negotiation?
I'm sorry, Your
With
Honor.
respect to consultants,
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
you have heard of the case of Makasait,
No, Your Honor.
the consultant hired by the Supreme Court.
No, Your Honor.
She was hired by the Supreme Court without authority of the Supreme Court and bank, but by the directive of the former Chief Justice. Have you heard of that case?
No, Your Honor.
You have not read that case?
No, Honor.
How do you keep yourself abreast of recent jurisprudence?
Um, I try to, when I do my work as judge of branch 228, Your Honor, I try to read cases which are not related to the cases which I handle. But since, because of the sheer number of docket, Your Honor, in drugs courts, I find a little time only in reviewing other jurisprudence, Your Honor.
I see. Because that case should concern the Supreme Court regarding bidding of experts. Anyway, you must be tired. Oh, what is betrayal of public trust?
Because when a
As
public,
defined by the Supreme Court. If you can remember, it is one of the grounds for impeachment, right?
yes, Your Honor, but I do not know the definition.
Oh, okay, your understanding.
Public office is a public trust, Your Honor. So if a public officer does acts which are contrary to the Constitution or any law, then the said public officer betrays the trust reposed upon him by the appointing authority.
Oh. Can you continue or expound on what you have stated?
If a public officer does acts prejudicial to the service,
That is very general. Okay.
um,
You must have forgotten. Okay lang.
I do not have exact definitions.
What is the rule of law? This will be my final final two questions. What is the rule of law? What is your understanding?
That laws are promulgated and the same are binding upon the citizens of the country, Your Honor.
Yes, and what are the four universal principles, the rule of law? Universally accepted principles. There are only four universally accepted. You can see this in law books, international law books. And
So,
even you have forgotten.
I have forgotten, Your Honor.
Oh, okay lang. You are assigned to a drugs court. Uh, too many cases, and you have no time to read other cases. But even if you are assigned to a drug case, once in a while you visit the Supreme Court website. I will not.
I do, Your Honor. I even print jurisprudence which I think are relevant, but concentrate on developments on the jurisprudence on drugs cases.
You attended the seminar also on evidence
Yes, Your Honor.
and also the civil procedure.
Yes, Your Honor.
Hindi na kita tatanungin doon. Maybe you're hungry.
Okay, Your Honor.
Okay. Those were my last questions. Thank you very much, Judge.
Also, Your Honor.
Good luck. You're excused.
Thank you po.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Justice Mendoza.
Yes.
That ends the public panel interview of Honorable Judge Mitoshila Manzanero Casino.
Thank you, Attorney.
Thank you, Judge, and we wish you the best of luck. Your Honors, that brings to a close the Council's morning session. We shall have a break to fill our summer salting tummies.